Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Once again, you're listening to World Combat Sports. What is good? Hopefully, everybody's doing great. You know what's popping on a Tuesday: boxing media, mixed martial arts, World Combat Sports. You know, everything popping. And for those of you that's in the workforce, man, you enjoyed your Labor Day weekend, man. Hope you have a nice day at work. You know what I'm saying? Enjoy that. Make sure you get a good, healthy lunch. Today, I'm going to start off by talking about the ESPN appearance by Teofimo Lopez. And then, of course, I'm going to bleed that over into what's been popping in social media. And the reason why I think it's doing as well as it is, you know, with Gary Russell Jr. You know, hold on for a second. Just want to appreciate everybody who's stopping in. So if you look at my thumbnail, it says IBF Teofimo Lopez joins First Take. That's what we're going to kick it off with. You know, of course, Stephen A. Smith, Max Kellerman, salute to the OGs. And also, you see WBC, Mr. Gary Russell Jr. changed promotional game without even raising his voice, y'all. Thousands of new fans he's made. Thousands, y'all. Y'all have to understand where I'm going with this. He's been able to do this the right way. I don't think I've ever witnessed someone like a boxer, like, you know, just a boxer who's making a transition, don't have a fight coming up, don't have anything pending really except a challenge. He sent out the call. That's it. And been able to do what he's been able to do. I'm talking about boxing is a global sport. And right here on social media, he's been able to ignite a firestorm. But let me get back to Tio, though. I don't want to get too far off topic because it is a pretty exciting, you know, topic of discussion to mention because, you know, that's what I think about it. I think he pretty much changed the game when it comes to other fighters having a little bit more confidence in what the fuck is going on with promoting themselves. Seriously, real talk. So Teofimo Lopez, he hopped on, and I'm saying to myself, you know, this is a big fight that's popping off in 2 months, right? So some of the talking points that went on, salute to Velocity, you know what I'm saying? Lawrence Williams in the house, what's good, bro? Always appreciate that boxing info. So, you know, I'm looking at it like this. They asking Teofimo Lopez about his upcoming fight, and he basically saying the same thing we pretty much hear on social media. You know what I'm saying? What do you think about Lomachenko's skills? Of course he's going to say, you know, Lomachenko has good boxing skills. He's top notch because he's stepping in there with him. He could have went ahead and dogged Lomachenko out or whatever. But, you know, the boxing fans already know Lomachenko has skills. But to my caveat, I'm saying this is ESPN. This is what you call the mainstream media, the higher tier, right? So why do we really want to know about, you know, what he think about Lomachenko's skills? I would just talk about what his thought process about going into one of the biggest fights in his career, one of the biggest lightweight fights that's popping, that's going right now because it gets us closer to an undisputed champion. So Teofimo Lopez, he responds the way he does. You know, he has pretty good, you know, power. And then, you know, they pretty much, you know, talk about Vasyl Lomachenko making Rigondeaux quick and talk about Nicholas Walters and stuff like that. And it's amazing that they still bring up Nicholas Walters, who haven't fought since the Lomachenko fight. But when it comes to Vasyl Lomachenko, somehow, some way, the temporaries always give him praise for what he was able to do with fighting for a vacant title against Gary Russell Jr. And not to get off par, but when I'm thinking about the layers of what I'm listening to, I'm like, okay, so you praise Lomachenko for what he was able to do, and earning a split decision against Gary Russell Jr., but yet you don't praise Gary Russell Jr. for getting a split decision versus split decision loss against Vasyl Lomachenko for the vacant title. They didn't even bring up Gary Russell's name when it came to Lomachenko because it was a split decision. But what they did bring up was Nicholas Walters. They brought up Rigondeaux. And Teofimo Lopez made it clear that, those individuals that was moving up 2 weight classes, which he has a solid point, y'all. Teofimo Lopez has a solid point. But obviously the best name that was on Lomachenko's resume would have been Gary Russell Jr. since he is still the champion with only 1 defeat from the guy who's stepping in there with Teofimo Lopez, but yet they didn't mention him on ESPN. Even in the producer's notes, nobody wanted to basically put that name out there, which would have been very, very good. If the pool was out there, it would have been very good and productive for them to mention Gary Russell's name because he's still undefeated as a WBC champion. His only loss is to Vasyl Lomachenko for a vacant title. You know what I'm saying? So Teofimo, they asked him about his nutrition and everything. And, he pretty much said what I've said already about he changing up his team. He was able to dial it in. Line killer in the building. What's good, man? Salute to you. And he's able to dial in, his nutrition because at a point in time where I was a little bit closer to the team, I know he was kind of struggling to make weight. They was doing shakeouts in the AM, deep in the AM, for him to shed those last couple of pounds. But it's good he dialed it in, able to get a nutritionist account. And apart, he got over the personal problems that was going on in his household. But when it came down to, him putting it out there on social media that he was going to be on ESPN, I don't see what it did for the fight. I think what Gary Russell's been able to do with igniting this media firestorm to bring attention to a fight that's not even made was much more than ESPN gave Teofimo Lopez coming on the show. Like, I'm looking for questions. I'm not looking for producer notes. I'm looking for questions that I haven't heard from the regular segues, the mainstream new media out here, the segues. I haven't really heard. I didn't really hear anything on ESPN that was different from what we did. The only thing he did was make an appearance among some higher tier names and get some notoriety for boxing. But so you thought. Because when it came down to it, I don't think it did anything for the fight. We know Lomachenko, he gonna come on, if he does come on, whenever he feel like it. And he's a boring promoter, but lucky for him, he has a name. He has people that can tune in or whatever. But as far as him promoting himself, you rarely see it happen. But for Teofimo, I guess they had a fight made. They pretty much, satisfied with the money they're getting. But I think it, to be honest with you, it fell short to me. This ESPN showing was very limited. This is one of the biggest fights this year. It is. Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury was a huge fight. But this fight right here is huge. Why? Because they're unifying the division. So this is a big, big fight. But yet they go on ESPN, and if you would have inhaled for just a little bit longer and got a little dizzy, the shit would have been over. And you would say, "What the fuck? Did I miss something? Let me hit this rewind button right quick. What's going on? What did he say? What did I miss?" I didn't like it because boxing deserves more than that. Especially Max Kellerman, he understands, he knows the sport. But you're gonna have T.O. and his father go all the way to ESPN, and that's all you talk about is the basic shit. What do you think about his skills? What are you gonna do, or how are you gonna prevent Lomachenko from doing what he was able to do with Walters and Rigondeaux and making them quit, knowing that Walters haven't even fought since the fight, so he's irrelevant right now, seriously irrelevant. Rigondeaux moved up 2 weight classes. Now he's at 118. Yeah, I said it. He has a secondary belt at 118. He went in there against Sabizio. And he holds like a regular title at 118 bantamweight. Rigondeaux is, how old is he again? So the reference I'm trying to make is, you have Gary Russell, who's like 32, who was obviously the best name on Vasyly's record. But yet they didn't mention. They just mentioned 2 fighters that has, no relevancy to making this fight any better between Teofimo Lopez and Vasyl Lomachenko. Why are you talking to him about 2 irrelevant fighters? There's a lot more that could have been done. I thought the show fell short. Not so much Teofimo Lopez in a sense, but I just thought Stephen A. Smith and Max Kellerman could do a better job in kind of hyping this fight up and bringing a little bit more needed exposure, because right now Gary Russell's name has been basically raining all over any type of hype and people talking about Teofimo Lopez and Vasyl Lomachenko. I'm just keeping it 100, y'all. I'm just keeping it 100. Jackal Fitness, AWD in the building. Salute, man. What's going on, Tyson? Salute to you. But that's what I want to say about Teofimo Lopez, man. He did what he's supposed to do, but you going on ESPN, which is supposed to be one of the higher tier platforms. It is, rather. Mainstream higher tier platforms, it could have been much more added to bring a little bit more exposure to these 2 individuals. And that just goes to show you, superstars, how their name grows or not. You have to have a certain type of energy to go on these ESPN platforms and hype up the fight. But when you go in there and you're not saying too much, you're not really using your bravado to make people tune in. I guess for a fighter, say, well, it's not going to be PPV, so I don't care. But yet, I look at it like this. Teofimo Lopez is in the early stages of his career, phase 1. And definitely, for him to be a primetime megastar, he could have talked a little trash today, like he did when he was in NYC. He could have talked a little trash, and made it a little bit more interesting, especially from what we used to seeing on social media with Russell and all the things that's been going on with Batman and Bill Haney and everybody else has been on these platforms, man. We've been sitting here looking at real fire pits. You know what I'm saying? We was tuned in to fire pits when it came to people going back and forth about 2 fighters, only 2 freaking fighters, and Terence Crawford's name wasn't even in it. Man, let me move on. Man, Gary Russell Jr., man, I have to salute this cat for being able to basically generate the type of energy he was able to do in a monotone voice. Gary Russell Jr. started this whole thing off, and people may not have liked it, but he was kind of quiet when we was in NYC. He kind of said, I want to fight Gervonta Davis. So when he was calling out Gervonta, he didn't get the response that he was looking for. So, coming full circle to where we at now. Yeah, it was an amateur backstory that caused him to get on the mic. But yet every time he got on the mic, same script, same energy, same monotone voice, straight to the point. You don't have to yell and scream to have an authoritative point of view to get across to the listener. And what he was able to do, yeah, he pissing people off, but what he did was interject himself in the process of moving up from featherweight position. He interjected himself and said, you know what? I call out this person, that person, that person. And then with Terence Crawford, the situation popped up where, it hit the news that Kell Brook potentially was an opponent. But before that, it was Keith Thurman. So he kind of left that alone. Keith Thurman want $10 million. We ain't talking about that. Whatever. Keith Thurman ain't the name I want because me and him don't have a history. And then Bud Crawford and Kell Brook start coming there. He's like, shit, check this out. Slim, I'll take that 1.5. I'll come up to 47 and fight you. How clear does that sound? I mean, how lucid does he have to be? He said, I'll come up 4 weight classes to fight you for 1.5. So let me ask you this. What was Terence Crawford's response? Dude was silent. Terence Crawford was silent. Extremely silent, y'all. I'm talking about that buzzing in the ear silence. We didn't hear none, people. We didn't hear anything to even entertain it. He's trying to fight Kell Brook, who has two fragmented eye sockets, orbitals, whatever you want to call it. So I'm like, okay, cool. He's silent. We call that in the military NINI. No impact, no idea. You feel me? So I'm like, okay. So Gary put it out there again. Hey, what's going on, man? What's going on? I told you you give me that 1.5, I'll fight you at 47. Tell them to call Al Heyman. Let's go. Nothing. So in between that, we all know what happened. It was some conversation that people were saying Gary Russell was ducking the smoke because he was going up for Crawford when he should be basically at a stopping point on his way up at 35. Because 35, logically, to a lot of people, is reasonable 2 divisions up from where he's currently at. He's currently at the featherweight division as long as reigning world champion right now, campaigning. So him moving up to 35, people are basically saying this. They're saying, hey, Russell, you should stop at 35 because history. You're coming from a lighter weight class, so we want to look out for you. We want to limit the risk you're willing to take. You know what I'm saying? We want to sit up here and coddle you making this decision because we feel that 47 is too much. So just stop at 35. And Gary's up there telling you like, nigga, I'm cut different. I'm built different. I move different. Me and my family. If you hear any one of them, they say they move as a unit. And this is no different. Let me get to some of these live chats, and then I'm gonna get back to what I was talking about. Appreciate everybody who stopped in. Tyson say 22 verse 32. I think it's straight up game show. What did Loma do versus Luke Campbell? Campbell, my bruh, live by me, huge skills. Well, I can take both of those comments that you just made, Tyson, and put it like this. You said 22 verse 32, right? I think it's a straight up game show. But yet and still, isn't Luke Campbell? What age is Luke Campbell? He's definitely not the same age as Vasyl Lomachenko. Wasn't Vasyl, older than Luke Campbell? And then he go in there and get the job done? Sometimes it depends on the amount of tread that you have on the tires and your amateur pedigree and how many fights that you've attended during that amateur journey that you was on. And we all know Vasyl Lomachenko has miles on his body, man. Gary moves like a panther. I agree, man. Their motto is Apex Predator. Jackal said the YouTube Gary Russell Devin Haney promotion is way bigger than Lopez versus Loma. True. I agree, man. Tyson, I think Teo versus Loma is huge, bro. No one said it wasn't huge. I definitely didn't say it wasn't huge. I'm saying that the energy that's been generated on social media recently started from Gary Russell Jr. going out here calling out the whole lineup. In my opinion, he changed the game and provided a different type of layer for fighters to now know that they can, if they do it correctly, they can emulate the same promotion and bring more attention to their brand than Gary Russell. Now you can't say he was out here just talking reckless and all this shit. He wasn't out here yelling and screaming and acting like he was a lunatic. He just basically put his words and sent the message. He put his words into a message and sent it. It wasn't a roundabout, winding manner. He got straight to the point, A to B. This is what it is. I'm calling you out. Boom. You either want it or you don't. But when people sit out here saying he ducking because he was going for Terence Crawford, was absolutely absurd. It was stupid, and it lacked proficiency in understanding what was actually going on. Gary wants dollars versus Haney at in the game. Gary all about the game and the legacy. Yeah, I agree with that. It got to be about the money. It has to be about the money. People hate AB. I know people hate him, but still a G. He fights, bro. Yeah, he hasn't been stopped though. And you know, AB's been in some tough fights where people thought they was gonna wash him. And that's what I say about AB. You know, he went in there with a Chino, a Marcus Madonna. Not to sway from the subject, but he went in there with a Marcus Madonna who had a full training camp, who was taking the game serious, who knew how important it was to go in here and get this title from AB. And AB did not. AB was intermittent during his training camp, was dropped, you know, several times, and he still finished the fight on his feet. And it's, like I said before, it's one of the most entertaining fights you need to watch because it was full of suspense, man, and climax. You know what I'm saying? It had those plots in between that, like you look for in a back and forth combat affair. You know what I'm saying? Very suspenseful, man, like an action-packed movie. Gary G. Sales, I like him. Loma 32. Campbell 32. Okay, Campbell, he looks a little younger, but I didn't look up the age. But still, you know, even with that said, Campbell 32, he still went the distance with Lomanchenko. And Lomachenko, people put him at a higher level. But he still went the distance with freaking Luke Campbell, who's a gold medal Olympian. Lomachenko is a double gold standard. And Luke Campbell is a gold standard, but yeah, he still went the distance with it. He couldn't finish him. Loma Campbell, bro, same age. Okay. We all need to ignore social media. Gary's only cat wanting to smoke. We can't ignore social media because we pretty much determine how social media can be productive, especially when you tune into what has basically transpired over the last couple of hours. You know what I'm saying? I mean, not the last couple of hours, the last couple of days. It's basically said, you know, the voice, look, the tongue is a sword to life and death. Once again, your tongue is a sword to life and death. So words can basically affect and influence people, both positive and negative. What Gary Russell was able to do in a sense of building up his notoriety to get this fight, he went out there calling out the bigger names that were pretty much in the lineup, you know, that settled in nicely for a targeted opponent that would be pretty decent for him to make. You know, if you look at it, Terence Crawford really didn't have a fight lined up. And then, you know, Devin Haney didn't have a fight lined up. You know what I'm saying? He targeted individuals that was there with open spaces to put his name as an opponent. And that's what it was all about. But the way he did it was, of course, it was personal between him and Crawford. And then, you know, Devin interjected. So once you know, that was interjecting, he heard that potentially any one person thought he might have been ducking. He would say, listen, you know, give me 5 more. because it's business. And then people say, oh, no, he trying to price himself out. You know, the same freaking language and cadence people get. Oh, he's trying to price himself out. But it's a business. We just seen Teofimo Lopez negotiate. We just witnessed him negotiate and force a reduced purse from Lomanchenko to addition his purse and even him out at $2 million. So why is the hell it's a problem if Gary Russell's up here talking about 0.5? Just give me a smooth 0.5, even out $2 million. You just seen somebody else do it. That's in the unification bout. But yet it's a problem because Gary Russell does it. That's just hypocrisy and bias. Because, you know, at the end of the day, you know damn well boxing don't have a damn retirement plan and healthcare system in place for these fighters. So that went out the window. You know, he got with his fam and everything. They talking it out, you know. He came back, he said, okay, 0.5, tell him to send the contract. So it turned around that it was some elbows on there. You know, the elbows was, you know, Bill Haney wanted him to hang out for a couple of fights. And you know, Batman was basically saying, no, we ain't trying to hang out with y'all. If we go over there and fight and we lose, we gone. That's it. We done. We don't want to hang out over the zone because they don't feel like the zone is a good fit for the Russell brand. You know what I'm saying? They just don't want to be in shackles. They don't want to be the face of, they don't want to bring up an organization which they probably have limited respect for to begin with. It's not like Eddie Hearn never spoke to Gary Russell. It's not like Hearns haven't spoke to the Charlos. It's not like Hearns tried to get Deontay Wilder. But was he able to successfully sign him? No, he wasn't. T joining in the building. What's good? IB, salute to you, man. Good to see everybody in the building. T joining, say salute. WCS, salute to you. And you know, for the talking points I got, man, I want to hear y'all, you know, your input on what I'm mentioning. Cono Loco Sports in the building. Salute. Make sure you subscribe to that brother's channel, man. And Jackal Fitness AWD approved, man. Check them out. Subscribe. Ohio, Broner, all love for him. Yeah, man, you know, I got respect for Broner. I just wish he'd be a better person, you know, just as a person and interacting with the fans. That's all. You know, but that's not for me to get in. I'm a grown ass man. You know, if he don't want to speak, he don't want to speak to certain fans or whatever. But that's just the way it is. Jackal said Gary was hunting all the big fish. Absolutely, man. He had that fishing rod that you go deep sea fishing with. He went out there for all the big fish. Connell said they weren't expecting Gary Russell to call their bluff. Yeah, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, a lot of people thought the first thing they want to do is call him ducking. But yet, the offer, the 0.5 offer wasn't unreasonable. It wasn't unreasonable. It's just 0.5. That's small, really. Seriously, that's small when at the end of the day. But they said they got the money. We got the money. We got the money. Okay. He called it bluff. And then this will we bring us to the last couple of days. Mad respect to Batman, Bill Haney for getting in there talking it out as black man and brothers, playing important roles. You know, Batman being the brother of Russell, and then Bill Haney, of course, being the father of Devin Haney, and much more. And I was able to watch these brothers communicate with one another. I was able to watch Bill Haney receive. You know what I'm saying? Even though Batman was taking over the conversation for a little bit, it wasn't like it was him just dominating the narrative. No. It was just like Bill Haney understanding that he wanted to kind of hear where this was going, because Devin Haney don't have a opponent right now. So he just wanted to know where Batman was going in talking about this. Because his interest, Bill Haney's interest was, hey, Batman, why don't y'all come over here, fight on the zone, and hang around with us for a little bit. That's his words, hang out with us for a little bit. And that means, you know, the 2 fights that was on there. and Batman wasn't trying to hear that. They wasn't trying to hang out over there in the zone and be locked in. They wasn't trying to hear that shit. Jacko said, that's the truth. Teal jumped up 800K. That's what I'm saying, man. Brona say, is the fight done? 1.5 flat, no options. That's what I'm hearing, man. You know how agreements and grip and grin grip and grin and handshakes are. You know what I'm saying? They're the same thing as basically, brushing shoulders with somebody and giving a head nod. It's going to take a little bit more for the people to officially co-sign and start talking about the fight's done. It's a long ways from being done, of course. Like I said before, I really thought what Fanon was able to do in his mediation, his position of mediating, I thought it was solid. I thought they respected his platform enough not for the conversation to get out of control. So the listeners that was tuning in can basically hear both sides. That's not really what happens on certain sites that basically lack the proficiency to even moderate something as important as what Batman and Bill Haney was trying to do. They was talking absolute business. They trying to make one of the biggest fights in lightweight division. This is important. That's why I was saying Bill Haney was listening. And I read brothers. I'm like, he was listening. And he was like, okay, all right. At some points he was like, okay, Batman, go ahead and speak. Like he wasn't even trying to dominate the position. But you seen him after Batman returned and they left off the live talking about a possible PPV split. The tone had changed a little bit because Bill was like, the zone, like I told you, that's not what they do. That's not what they do. They have the structure for potentially, but they have to grow first. They have to become consistent. And we know they don't have no big names over there. And people will open their eyes a little bit and stop talking all this ducking nonsense. Look at what's going on with Canelo. You cannot make impulsive decisions. They always say numbers don't lie, but sometimes they do. You know how numbers lie? When there's words and characters that's attached to those numbers. And we're finding that out with Canelo Alvarez, who's a $365 million man. But yet, even he is having problems because they're saying Golden Boy is not presenting them with premier fights. So you just don't look at the numbers without looking at the contingency internal to the contract, which forces a person to read. You have to be forced to read or have somebody else interpret the language for you. You have to be patient. And that's where we at with this. What are the stipulations going to be? Yes, Bill can get on here and say, okay, there's no elbows on that. So basically, we're going to do a fight with a rematch clause. We have to wait for that agreement to be documented. From what I'm hearing, Bill did his job. He went back and he made some phone calls. His daughter was having birthday. He up here working, talking. I mean, they was putting in some motherfucking work and hours in this shit yesterday and the day before. So from my understanding, he was able to say, okay, we got the 1.5. We can get that. It's going to be no PPV. But the last thing I heard was Batman was saying like, man, this is what I'm trying to do. I see where Batman is going, though. I see where he's going, man. He's basically trying to say, let's get that guarantee money and then try to get this PPV. But it takes a lot more from a fledgling streaming company to put on a PPV when they're not set up for that. They cannot maximize a fight of that magnitude if they have not been implementing that structure already. They don't have a history. They don't have any numbers. They don't have any, bars out there that's been basically they can go off of. They don't have a metric. They really don't have anything to say, how can we approve on this PPV status? There's nothing out there because that's not what they do. You just pay for the app, and that's it. You get what you get. The zone is like a mobile phone contract. They froze Usyk out. Strapped up Sammy in the building. Simplify, my brother. Oorah to you. Appreciate you in the building there, Sammy. Tyson say, Don King, we have whites and blacks like little rodents. Now scrapping, ducking. Don King, the real black man, had this all sorted in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Boxing now. Well, the only thing I can say about that is that back then it was much more racism that was prevalent. I mean, it was blatant a little bit more when it included fighting and boxing. You know what I'm saying? His name say it all. These modern dudes are not fit to be in the same room. Sorry for the rain. Okay, I get what you're saying. You know what I'm saying? I understand where you're coming from. But right now, keeping it on the topic, which is the bigger deal, is the fact that in a pandemic, y'all, this is why it's so genius, in my opinion, that what Gary Russell was able to do during the pandemic. We was able to basically go to a system that was doing very well. It was doing decent. Some of the channels and new media was doing decent when boxing was actually flowing. The current was nice. But now in the pandemic, the water's been still just a bit. So it was hard to try to get up here and talk about a fight, especially when it comes to PPV and talking about certain, what the monetary purses would be, because the promotional companies are struggling. We're absent of a live gate. So regionally, there have been fight cards put on with people in attendance. But for the higher tier, no. They're still, working with the bubble. And they're not even going to jeopardize. They're not going to even, they haven't even thought. I know Bob Arum had mentioned it, that he would like to have a partial live gate when it came to Lomachenko and Teofimo Lopez, but I haven't heard anything else from that. But this is the genius part about what Russell was able to do, was bring in more viewers to a platform, a boxing platform that wasn't there. In a sense, being that we are limited with the professional sports that we're currently able to access, it allowed more people to tune in to new media rather than the media that you used to see with all, 100 and some thousand freaking viewers. It allowed individuals that really wasn't boxing fans to tune in to this. And the reason why they tuned in, because the energy was right. Gary Russell was able to keep a consistent schedule with putting his voice out there. He wasn't acting like he was a lunatic. He was able to go out here and speak, get his message out there. Now what? Every single time that a response was put out there, he came back with the same energy. And though his voice was monotone, the message was absolutely loud and clear. He never wavered from that, y'all. That's what makes that shit genius. That's what led up to Batman and Bill Haney putting in hours and hours and hours and hours of talking, arguing, conversing, debating, negotiating, disagreeing, agreeing. You know what I call that shit? Grown man shit, man. It was one of the best that I've seen on the social media platform. And you're probably saying to yourself, well, it's been plenty of interviews, it's plenty of that. But no, what I'm talking about is, we're talking about a fighter in Gary Russell that hasn't contended at 35. We're talking about a future superstar in Devin Haney who's looking for a fight. He hasn't been able to grab a top tier name yet. You know, the Gamboas has been out there floating around like a rubber ducky. Javier Fortuna, all that shit. But none of them have been buckled in yet, so we can bring it to the table and get something official. So how does Gary Russell fit nicely into this situation? For one, he's a champion. He's the longest reigning WBC. He's a champion in a different division. He's moving up. That provides the fanfare, vested interest. They want to look at this and say, shit, man, stylistically, okay. Russell can box, Devin can box, okay. That's nice. And then you look at, of course, he coming up 26-35. People's like, well, Devin Haney's going to be bigger. Of course, if he's in a position. But you know how they put it sometimes, right? Especially those in the South that grew up around pit bull fighting. What do they say about that dog analogy? It's not the size of the dog in the fight. Y'all heard that shit before. We've seen it in boxing. We've seen individuals that consider to be undersized. I've seen it not in boxing. I've seen it in mixed martial arts too. Look at the Ben Henderson Thackett. I believe his last name is Thackett. Look at that fight, how he was severely undersized and he still won. And that is like an all around mixed martial arts fight where you can really use your weight to fatigue somebody out and win. But in boxing, I don't see this fight. I don't see the separation like people giving it. Like, I just don't see that shit. I don't see Gary Russell being extremely undersized at all. Yeah, Devin Haney going to be the bigger fighter, but when it comes down to boxing and ring IQ, come on, man. This is the sweet science. If you can properly apply a strategy that works, isn't that what the art of war is? They always talking about the art of war. Isn't that what we all look at? Don't we always speak about, he might not won the battle, but he won the war? Isn't strategy everything? And what goes along with strategy is intelligence. And what goes along with intelligence is experience. I mean, you have to apply all those together in this particular scenario. And you have to understand that Russell has the experience. But Devin Haney has been around some boxing OGs in the sport. And so has Russell. Both of these guys' history, you know what I'm saying? Their index. You can find chapters in their boxing career that they've been around some OGs in the sport and learned a hell of a lot. But when it comes down to reigning over 5 years, that's Gary Russell. He may have had a single fight annually per 5 calendars or whatever the case may be. And people want to criticize that. But the point I'm trying to make to you, there's somebody in between that time of his intermittent competition. Did anybody beat him? Don't just sit up here and say he ain't fought nobody. Y'all have to get that out your narrative every time. If you're going to sit up here and keep on talking about Lomanchenko, won a split decision, you have to educate yourselves a little bit better. Because when it comes down to it, who beat him? He had champions. He had neighboring champions, WBA, IBF, and WBO champions in his same division. One of the weakest conversations that we can talk about as media is what didn't happen in the 26th division when people was up here complaining about Gary Russell fighting once a year. You did not hear one big name outside of them sanctioning bodies. Leo Santa Cruz, a 4th division champion, they want to hype out. Leo Santa Cruz, a 4th division champion. Why didn't they fight? And Russell would call them out. Why couldn't the fight be made? All the other people that was over there champions. Why the fight couldn't be made? I have to make mention of Shakur Stevenson too. He rolled up there, picked up a strap and bounced. So I guess what Gary was saying about, hey, Shakur Stevenson said, Russell like a big bruh. I get it. But then when it come down to solidifying your legacy, don't you think Shakur Stevenson facing Gary Russell would have been a big fight? But he didn't call out Gary Russell. He wasn't sitting up here making a big deal, getting on IG and saying, you know what, while I'm down here at 26 before I move up, because I really want to fight Burchelt, let me take this fight with Gary Russell. No. You know why that ain't a goddamn in the equation? Because that shit is dangerous right now for Shakur Stevenson. Russell would have been absolutely dangerous for Shakur Stevenson to take a fight like that early in his career. King finished Arum off in the 70s. I'm not sure. You own the King and Arum, but he didn't finish him off. Arum's still around. And, Arum is still around to the point where he has much more exposure than Don King. I'm not saying Don King is out the business, but Arum is still around. You see him. You know what I'm saying? Adrian, he said, bro, you're an Adrian fan. Hey, if the man is an Adrian fan, he's an Adrian fan. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Hey, let AB be happy. Do boxing since he was a kid. But maybe club's not good. He needs a UK trainer. Who knows a good time in clubs AB needed a shift in his career. AB gets too much hate. But yeah. Back to what I was saying, it's like one of these things where you have to take in consideration how much this has changed the game and the people that was involved with it. Serious, it's a big deal, people, because if this fight actually takes place, we're going to look back on this and say who all contributed to it outside of the mainstream media, and that was new media. But yet the inception is the fact that he was able to do what he was able to do. He was able to stay consistent with responding to guys, responding to whatever was put out there. And he did it in a way where he got straight to the point, man. He said, this is what's going on. If you feel this way. And then it started narrowing itself down to Devin Haney. So it was a point between Terence Crawford and Devin Haney to the point where we found out that Crawford was busy up here focusing on Brooke. So, you even dial it in a little bit more, adjust the windage, and now it's all about Devin Haney, who is a big name in the lightweight division, and freaking Gary Russell's and his brother Batman definitely trying to make a big fight happen. And not only make a big fight happen, it's good for boxing, y'all. This fight is very, very good for boxing if it happens the right way. If it happens the right way. If you hear anybody out here talking about someone's, ducking this and that, don't pay no mind to it. Just understand they don't possess the literacy to come out here and speak on such a subject that's important business-wise that makes sense. What Bill Haney and Batman was doing makes sense. Batman, listen, you got to give him his credit on knowing the game. Like, he knew a lot of shit, dog. Like, I ain't gonna lie, it's some shit I was getting educated on. I was like, okay, all right. But then I'm looking at Bill. Bill was maintaining his patience, talking. And when it was time to goddamn fire off, he was going in. He kept that shit receptive. He was listening, absorbing, and then when he basically regurgitated what he wanted to talk about, He stayed to what his intention was. At first, his intentions was, y'all come over and hang out with us a little bit. Because if you come over here and fight, I want you to hang out. Listen to everything. He held on to that core bullet point right there until, the live was in, and then he went back, and then they came back on live. And the language was different. Like, okay, cool. I talked to him. We got the 1.5 rematch. That's it. No stipulations. And for the viewers that turned in, we like, shit. We open our eyes like, oh shit, this fight, what they've been able to do is amazing. This fight may actually happen this year. And from my understanding, Gary Russell has a fight date, a TBA, December 26th. We in September. That's ample amount of time for them to get into a training camp. So I'm curious to know what's going to happen in the next week and a half on, both camps and everything. Not both camps, but both camps. Both camps getting together and trying to make this shit happen the way it's supposed to be. And that's giving us, the fight fans, a confirmation saying, yeah, this fight actually going to take place. What's up, Alexander? How you feel, man? That's my only thing. Like, I want to see, are we able to lock in the documentation to make this fight official? Because all the groundwork, you know what I'm saying? The tactical operation, it was a success, in my opinion. The tactical operation was a success. Yeah, two sides getting together. And yes, we have engaged. So they engaged one another. They talked it out back and forth. Hours and hours and hours put into something like this. On regular on a new media platform. Didn't have to go through the middleman, none of that shit. And we've now come to a conclusion that we have some solid numbers, the 1.5 and no stipulations, which is satisfying. The reason why it's satisfying is because we have two top tier names in boxing. And a lot of people are going to now start saying that, let me read something. Devin Haney finally, Devin Haney's been pretty quiet. You feel me? But let me repeat what he put out here. Devin Haney said, and when I beat the dog shit out of him, watch him make every excuse in the book like he did with Loma. I'm going to beat all the cap out of Gary. Watch. So, Devin Haney putting that out there, kind of stirring up a little bit. But listen, could you imagine? If it would have been Devin Haney and Gary Russell talking back and forth? Could you imagine how that conversation would have went? I can tell you like this: when you get the actual fighters, we would have missed a lot of important content than we did listening to Bill Haney and Batman. I'm gonna be honest with you. I would have rather listened to Bill Haney and Batman talk about this. Because I knew Gary Russell and Devin Haney going back and forth. It would have been good for viewers. The viewers would have absolutely shot through the roof. But when it comes down to the aspects, the talking points, the bullets for which they was able to touch on, nah. It takes individuals that know the game and where they're trying to go. You know what I'm saying? I definitely would have kept it on, Bill Haney and Batman. Because patience-wise, the fighter's not going to have as much patience as these two individuals were. And the maturity, I'm just saying in the conversation. Because, to be honest, I couldn't see myself, I couldn't see Gary Russell just standing in the chute like that, negotiating and up here talking back and forth He did that already. And at least he made his rounds, man. I give him that much. He made his rounds. But in this particular scenario, I was satisfied with the education of them talking back and forth about the fight. And everybody else should too. But do you have anything less to say other than you gotta give them you have to give them salute for putting in all that freaking time and effort into this. It shouldn't be nothing out there saying that anybody's ducking anything. You can't say Gary Russell is ducking anything when he's been the mouthpiece. He's been keeping this on the conveyor belt. He's been keeping this in circulation, y'all. He has absolutely had a very active response time. As we say in communication, the TTL. The TTL is when you actually do anything on your computer and your IP addresses, communicate with the receipt for where you're going. It don't matter where you at. Internet protocol reaches, out to the SAT and then down to the user, to the recipient, and then back to the user. Your response time was accurate. The TTL, which you might not know unless you basically configure databases and all that shit, it's called time to live. If you look at it and you go into your IP config, you will absolutely be able to verify what I'm talking about. But anyway, as I was saying, is his TTL was on point. So you have to respect that. Boxing Archives in the building. What's good? Look how many good fighters we have in one area at one time. The Charlo twins, Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury, Errol Spence, Terence, Teofimo Lomachenko, Devin Haney, and Tank Davis. We want them to be great. I agree with that, man. Tyson, I'm not sure if you read the bottom. He said, we want, WANT, we want them to be great. And you respond, they aren't great. You need to read the entire narrative, man. Come on, y'all. We want them to be great. Those are some big names that he mentioned. So out of those names, why wouldn't we want them to be great? The Boxing King archive, Box Rec Hall of Fame never lied. Oh yeah, the Hall of Fame, they got some lies up in there. Shit. D Hodges in the building. Salute to you. All the dudes you mentioned have less overall world title defenses than Roberto Duran. Now you see. Okay, listen. Yeah, you want to compare him to the old heads and the era of boxing. Still, man, a lot of these fighters that was mentioned are still growing in the sport. Deontay Wilder, of course, he turned 35, but still, he's been able to do what a lot of heavyweights wasn't able to do and put his name in the company of the greats. If you're looking at the Spences, Teofimo, and Devin Haney, they're still growing. And Tank Davis, they're still growing. They don't supposed to be Hall of Fame right now. They're not supposed to. It's only several fighters that's up in age, but yet, you look at Deontay Wilder, he may be at 35, but still, with 10 defenses, he's in the company of some greats, and he's going to be a future Hall of Famer. You can guarantee that. You can guarantee that. Charlo brothers, they have some landscape to cover. You know what I'm saying? Vasyl Lomachenko, future Hall of Famer. Say what you want. Because when it comes to the Hall of Fame, they're going to combine his 2 gold medal tours with his 3 division championships. Don't matter how many vacant titles he fought for. And they're going to say, you know what, you deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. They're going to give him that love because he was on the top pound for pound list for years. However long he been on top pound for pound. Gervonta Tank Davis, he has a lot of work to do. It doesn't mean he won't, but he's still young in the game. He has some work to do. He can continue to make a name for himself, so that's what he needs to do. You can't discount him. What's going on with the people that's basically jettisoning the fact that these fighters are still active and they're doing what they have to do with the competition they have. They can't just go up here. If it was up to the fighters to make the fights, in some cases we'll get the fight that we want, but in a lot of other cases we won't. That's just the way it goes, people. Okay, you kind of getting off topic. This is not about, Vitaly Klitschko, Vladimir, and the heavyweight division. What this is talking about, what's been in the media as of recent, and we're talking about, the Gary Russell situation with Devin Haney. Two fighters with big names in the sport of boxing. And like I said before, I was impressed with what was able to take place. I'm glad I was able to witness it during my lifetime, to be able to have a change up. The reason why I like it is because, actually one of the majors that I took in college was, journalism and multimedia. Mass media. And the levels of media has changed during the pandemic when it comes to boxing, because a lot of these big time media outlets aren't able to be on site with the big cameras and get all the interviews, the exclusives and everything. Now, those names have somewhat disappeared. Now you go to the individuals that have their own boxing channels and their subscribers who tune in to them all the time. And this where it's actually taking place for the love of the sport. Like, you actually get to basically interact with fighters that was on a program where they really didn't frequent the new media like that. But now in the pandemic, shit's done changed a little bit, and they have, limited, they have a little bit less to deal with, you know what I'm saying? And the fights are still trying to pick up, but yet we don't have live gates and stuff like that. But anyway, you get an opportunity to see new media talk to more fighters on these platforms, on these boxing platforms. You're able to experience it. It's almost like you're right there. But when boxing was going on the way it was, the only thing you can do is get an interview. You can tune into an interview. Some of these big time sponsorship, sponsored channels, they would interview the fighters and then post it. And then people just look at it. But now you having fighters tuning in to live streams, which allows you to be a bit closer to the real time, action is going on. The real time conversation that's being had with the host of the channel and the fighters themselves. I like that. You don't have to pay, unless you're a Patreon and shit like that. But most of the time, these boxing channels, they do a live stream on their regular YouTube stream, and you get to tune in. You don't have to pay a thing. And, the only obligation you have is your time and your patience. And of course, people love controversy. Controversy sells, especially when it comes to boxing. And this is what Gary Russell and Devin Haney has been able to give you. I mean, I would say Gary Russell to a point, and then, bringing in Bill Haney, who is basically, took the lead and spoken for the team. But you can't say it's not genius for what Gary Russell was able to do. I really don't care what people's opinion is on how I think about the situation. But what other fighter can you say have made and brought this many viewers just from responding to calling out fighters and trying to make a fight, especially during the pandemic. He was able to bring thousands of more viewership and attention to his name just off getting behind the camera and sending out the message, getting straight to the point. You know what I'm saying? Let me see. Tyson, most of those fighters I mentioned are very good in the ring, but they have potential to be great. What I mentioned is the reference to what World Combat Sports is speaking on. I pretty much understood what you was talking about, their archives. And like I said earlier, the only thing I referenced with you, Tyson, was that he said we won't. W-A-N-T. We want to see them be great. He didn't say they was great. We want to see them be great. Velocity said, I wish Wilder would have fought Klitschko. So, Wilder fighting Klitschko and what? I mean, Wilder fight Klitschko and then what? He has one loss on his record. So Wilder fight Klitschko and then what? Seriously. He fight Klitschko and what? What is it going to do? I mean, looking at the Klitschko brothers record, what is it going to do? But anyway, like I said before, I want the boxing fans to support what happens from this day forward and keep the energy right. Tune in to the channels, support the fighters, build this up so they can get the most energy from this fight. And also, I want to also bring into effect, which I, kind of left out on purpose earlier, is that when you heard Teofimo Lopez talking, on ESPN this morning, he said he was going to be the first Latin, Hispanic to be undisputed. And then Max Kellerman had to correct him. But what, Teofimo, what Max was saying, like, yeah, you're not the first to be unified, but yeah, with the belts, with the collective group of belts that you're talking about, yeah, in that perspective, but unified is unified, regardless if a certain sanctioning body wasn't part or wasn't established back then. Still, unified is unified. Unified means what? More than one, right? So just because we have all these belts out here now, still the word unified means more than one. That's what it means. Unified means more than one. Come on. So Teofimo, like, he gets on here, right? And I'm waiting. And he didn't do it. You know what I'm talking about? Teofimo never mentioned the franchise belt, but he did mention undisputed. So I'm saying, stop playing. Stop playing. That's one of my takeaways. Stop playing, Teo. Stop sitting up here, putting that language out there. Stop saying you undisputed with that friendship green title. The friendship green panty title, man. Stop doing it. Because it's no validation with that title. What has Canelo did with the title, and what has Lomanchenko did with the title? What has he done with the title? So if you're going to be able to receive and talk about, this franchise title being as important as it is, then all I do is ask you to kind of do a little bit more deeper digging and come up with some criteria as to what are we supposed to go on with this franchise title. Like, what are we going on? You give it to them just so they cannot face mandatories. How do us as boxing fans respect the two recipients already who has absolutely did nothing to build the validation, to build up the respect, to basically just start adding layers? Because people are treating this title like it's prolific. People are just treating this title like it's something of grandiose. And it's not. It's nothing grandiose about it, man. Yeah, the franchise. You know, we have franchise label, franchise tag, and all this shit. That's what I see going on with this belt, to be honest with you, because Canelo Alvarez and Vasyl Lomachenko has not did a damn thing with this belt, y'all. Y'all know I'm not lying on that. They have absolutely did nothing. So when Teofimo Lopez say he's gonna be undisputed, he must have heard my live, because he didn't mention that shit today. He didn't answer that shit today. He mentioned all the other belts, the WBA, IBF, WBO. He didn't mention that franchise belt. He said he gonna be the first Latin undisputed champion. And there you go. I'm like, come on, Tio. You capping a little bit, because you know damn well when you get to the core of it, people are still going to say, well, we just have this one question for you there, Teofimo Lopez. How do you consider yourself the undisputed when there's one champion out there that has the coveted belt in his sanctioned body? He has the WBC World Championship, which you know damn well when you was planning on being a fighter, when you was in the amateurs, this is what you dreamed about. This is what you thought. This is what you set a goal to have. This was the title that you was originally trying to go for when you was trying to go for a title run in the lightweight division. So all of a sudden, you abandon that targeted sanctioning body, the WBC, and you go and divert your flight plans over to the IBF and take on Richard Comey. So now all of a sudden you're trying to act like the same belt you was going for initially is unimportant. Now you pick up the IBF belt and you have the opportunity to fight for the unified titles, which is great. But you cannot use that stamp of approval and say, I'm fighting for the undisputed. Come on, man. I mean, no one's buying into that. The temporaries might, but no one's buying into it. I see Shakur getting KO'd. No, hell no. You see Shakur being KO'd by who? Because Shakur Stevenson made it perfectly clear. He wants Lomachenko. Shakur Stevenson made it perfectly clear, just like, you know, you hear Gary Russell on the mic. Shakur Stevenson made it perfectly clear that he's not ducking any smoke. He's on a tear. And once again, you cannot sit up here. You know, I use the Duck Master. You know where, you know, Shakur Stevenson is anywhere close to the Duck Masters coalition. This man during the pandemic said that he was moving up to 130, and he did it. He gets up there and you know, he puts Burchell's name in the equation, but yet Oscar Valdez is the one that's next in line, so to speak. So he said, you know, Oscar, why don't me and you fight, and the winner fight Burchell? But Oscar Valdez is not going to do that because he knows Shakur Stevens is a tough fight. But to the temporaries, they up here talking about Shakur Stevenson ducking somebody. We have to get that terminology and use it when it's basically a referencing a legitimate target. You can't say everybody's ducking. We saw something historically for boxing this week in negotiations of Gary and Devin. This has never been done. Plus Devin being the youngest promoter in history. And that's what I'm trying to say. Good point. Good point. Because at the end of the day, you know, it's DHP. Even though they're going to have hold on. Let me put y'all back on live. Okay. Let me check the other stream right quick, y'all. I keep forgetting to check my Facebook stream comments. People be tuned in, and I need to make sure I'm looking and recognizing some of the people be freaking tuned in over here. Let's see. All right, cool. Said, but not really. Father dies. You need to develop as a man, like Floyd. Daddy not around forever, so you're wrong. So I have to go back and see what's this in response to. Devin is smart to let his father be the mouthpiece for his promotion company. Once again, I have to agree with that instance that archives in reference to, Tyson. The reason why I look at it this way is because, kids are growing up faster this day and time. And it's good to be around and have that parental support. Always. It takes a village, right? But when it comes to, what he was saying as far as his father being the mouthpiece, Devin is there to train. Devin is there to focus on the fight. He hears what's going on. Devin's probably in the other room looking at the live. Devin's probably just sitting there chilling, looking at the live, man. I wouldn't want my son on here talking and putting all that stress in there. I wouldn't want it. I think it's a perfect format to allow Bill to be communicating with Gary's brother and them to basically hash out the intricate details and bring them, both sides closer together. I like it, man. I think it's absolutely right. I have to agree with that, man. Why would you want the fighter on here? The fighters, man, they have to focus on getting ready for training and all this other stuff. But I do understand what you're talking about, letting a fighter grow and this, that, and the other. Yeah. But also that fighter has, training. He has other things they need to take care of. Plus, there may be some instances where the fighter may not be as patient as the parent. Daddy will take a motivated man to the highest level until the baby comes up against a straight up killer. Then he's picking his teeth off the canvas. I'm pretty sure he's learning while he's watching his father. And the people like Mayweather and Eddie Hearns, Devin is in the mix. He seems to be level-headed and sharp for a young man. I respect him. Yeah, man, you don't hear too much from Devin. That don't mean he's intellectually improficient. No, man, he's sitting back. He understands. I mean, he has his own promotional company. If you actually listen to him in the media, he's able to basically speak his mind. You know what I'm saying? Eloquently give his opinion. I think I've interviewed him twice. He knows what's going on. And in the process of him being in the media scrum, this is no cap. Bill was just sitting back in the shadows, chilling, close by. So it's not like he's up there micromanaging Devin, looking over his shoulder, have to be in the picture and the frame all the time and see what questions are being asked. No, when he was in the media scrum in the MGM, Bill was chilling, back then, back in the cut a little bit close by. That's fact. I'm never wrong. Haney will go the same way as Cross Eyes in a year. Not sure what that means though, but you talking about he gonna get knocked out? The boxing game, talent speaks. I'm no media. We'll come back to sports, sit in the room, watching our live. 100 agree. Yeah, man, Devin Haney. If you thought he wasn't somewhere close, he could probably hear his father, talking while he was in the house. But man, he was sitting back there, taking in all this shit. It ain't like he's just gonna be in there playing video games. His dad gonna go in there and brief him on 4 or 5 hours of live. Shit. He gonna be like, nigga, you wasn't listening? Shit. You got a phone? You know what I'm saying? You got a phone, you wasn't listening? You didn't see what was going on? Hell yeah, they did. Devin was in the other room listening, man. Shit. These old men try to fake over the line, take over the limelight in 2020. Look at Fury's father; it's pathetic. Well, you're talking about two different types of individuals. Like, whenever you hear John Fury talk, he talks. You know what I'm saying? But once again, Fury ain't getting no shine on this live today. Really can't talk about Ali. You know, I mean, that's outside, you know, Devin Haney and Gary Russell topic of discussion, people. You know what I'm saying? But what's good, you know, what I wanted to make a point was we've crossed into new territory. Yes, people, we crossed into new territory. And look, all over a weekend. Not only just a weekend, this shit was popping off on a Monday. Come on, man. This shit was popping off on a Monday. Look, this shit popped off on the weekend where, you know, a lot of media take place, but people got shit to do. It was Labor Day weekend, right? But on Monday, the charcoals was still goddamn smoking. They was still smoking. They were still smoking. You know, I gotta give, you know, Barbershop Conversation was one of the first, really, because Gary Russell was on Barbershop Conversation, so that was kind of like the first. So Gary has made his rounds. That's another thing I appreciate him. Like, he's been quiet in the game, but Gary has made his rounds, man. You know, he was on Barbershop Conversation. Then he was on some. I think he was on Fight Hype. I mean, he was on several. You know, I even was able to get an interview with him. So, you know, I appreciate that. You know, him making rounds, getting his voice out there, but primarily himself, you know, making a video and responding and sending a message. You know, he's basically building up the value of his notoriety to have people think of this fight as something of interest for them to support. That's what he's doing. He's making it believable for the promotions, and he's making it believable to the fight fans. And I'm pretty sure he's basically built up some more fight fans to tune in to support him during this time. Yeah, there was a lot of criticism with what he was saying, but man, this is boxing. This is boxing. People have to understand that. But what's puzzling to me is someone said it better. Who said this? I got to remember who said this shit. Who said it? God damn it. I almost had it. Damn, it's a professional fighter, man. God damn it. They said, man, I think people are getting soft during this pandemic. We need to get back to boxing because they talking some bullshit. That was absolutely true. During this pandemic, people started to, you know, really, damn. I had it again. It was dealing with one of the fight cards that was in the bubble. What the fuck? No. It was in mixed martial arts. Yes. Somebody said, okay. Yeah, Dana White said it. That's who said it. And he made perfect sense. They was complaining about, I would think, a fight between Anthony Smith and Glover Teixeira, I believe. And you know Dana White's done seen thousands of fights. And people was complaining about how long a fight was going on, which we done seen some very bloody, I'm talking about Valentine's Day massacre type fights in the UFC. So I say this to say that, like, I think some people has really became oversensitive during this pandemic, and they ain't trying to, you know, keep that same level of intensity that we used to seeing in boxing. It seems like they just wavering. They want to be nice. They just want to say, oh no, just like the Jamel Herring fight. Jamel Herring fight against Jonathan Oquendo, and people sitting up here thinking Oquendo was the nastiest fighter ever that we've seen. How long have you been watching the sport of boxing? Jamel Herring had a similar stoppage early in his career that he took a loss. This is what I'm saying about individuals who don't dive enough into the sport and watch enough fights. It's easy for you to get on here and follow somebody in a group, but you're gonna say that Oquendo was a dirty fighter, super dirty, and we should pay sympathy to Jamel Herring, who basically want to get on here and say his corner was responsible for stopping the fight, but then turn around and he was saying he couldn't see. So which one is it? If you can't see and you want to quit, what is that called? I mean, Oquendo should have got the belt. If the referee wasn't basically placing you in a position to be DQ'd off an active, immediate headbutt, Tony Weeks wasn't given, applying a point deduction at the time. He had already took a point. So for him to go over there and the corner start getting involved and all that, and they let him keep his belt, doesn't make any sense to me. It's frivolous in so many ways. And when it comes down to it, it just seems like some people are not understanding what history has given us. Yes, sit up here and talk about the Mike Tyson Holyfield fight, but yet they sit up here, Jonathan Oquendo, he was just so dirty. Man, that's softness. Y'all don't know the full-pledged hand-to-hand combat. Like, are y'all the type of dudes that if you in a street fight and a person headbutt you, you're going to say, oh, pause, stop it, time out. You're not fighting fair. Like, I want to ask what I'm missing, but I know what's missing from them. How all of y'all gonna co-sign to be wrong? You have Timothy Bradley, you have all these people that's saying that, Jamel Herring, even there's articles out there that's talking about the performance of Jamel Herring. Even he himself said he didn't feel good. But yet, he want to talk about a fight with Carl Frampton. And now, Shakur Stevenson is even trying to slide in there and get a fight with Jamel Herring and pick up another strap. Even Shakur Stevenson is crawling in. You know what I'm saying? That young lion, Shakur Stevenson, know the right time when to chime in, don't he? He says, shit, I'll take a fight with damn Jamel Herring. I'll give him his retirement fight. Carl Frampton trying to get that fight too. Coming off a solid performance against Tyler McCreary. Also, he stepped in there in his last fight and did fairly well. Do I think he'll beat Jamel Herring? Absolutely. Jamel Herring is somewhat, talking about retirement. And people up here trying to send him to the local daycare. Just Jamel Herring, follow us, please. Where we going? I'm taking you to the local daycare. It's a little bit outside the bubble. But we're going to give you some Pediasure. Change out your diaper. Get you a masseuse on deck. And, kind of put some ice on that swollen eye. It's just too much for us to handle. We want you to be okay in good hand. No, bro. This is boxing. This is the hurt business, man. Yeah, I mean, I have to agree with you that Dana rip you off and smile at you. Yeah, I have to agree. Some fighters probably been in that situation. Dana White pays the fight at 17. Yeah, I know all of that. I'm not even gonna get into that. Yeah, you're right. I'm not gonna deny. You know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna deny. Those fighters over there are getting paid a low percentage. Real talk. Frampton's Z's. He's pretty entertaining, especially if you link him up with Jamel Herring. It would be an entertaining fight in my opinion. For real. That's for another live though. Herring looking like a wounded warrior. They lining Shakur for him. Yeah, man. And I'm happy. But you know what it is, right, Jackal? You know what it is. Shakur Stevenson go up in there and watches Jamel Herring. What they gonna say? Well, he didn't recover. Watch how I link this shit up though. He didn't recover from the Jonathan Oquendo fight. His eye was swollen all to be damned. He couldn't continue. But they don't think about Kell Brook, who's been injured on both sides of his cranium, and they about to make that fight with Terence Crawford. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on, man. When is the time to chill? Like, Shakur Stevenson goes in here and watch Jamel Herring. They're going to say, well, he wasn't that good to begin with because he was coming. But yes, he was, because you look at the fight he won the title. That was a solid title fight. He did enough. His energy was probably on a whole nother level. His motivation was different. But this last fight against Jonathan Oquendo, he had some solid points in the fight where he was getting off. Like, I'm not taking away from his performance with Oquendo. It's the fact that if you made changes and Bomac told you what to do, then Oquendo made changes too. Now, you may not have liked Oquendo changes because it was much more of a more aggressive, dirty tactic that you was expecting. But you just can't go in there and expect to be in a war and you're the only delegator. You're the only enforcer. War doesn't work that way. War doesn't work that way. There's too many people. There's too much, cotton ball narratives that's out here being soaked up with all this BS, man. Like, people up here just giving people excuses. And they thought Jonathan Oquendo was dirty. I mean, you haven't watched Sean Porter fights? You haven't seen a Sean Porter fight? What's going on, Jones? What's good, man? Salute. Yeah, they're gonna say that he wasn't the same. They already talking about the first belt Shakur Stevenson won. But Shakur Stevenson's trying to become multi-division champion. He goes in here and gets a belt with Jamel Herring. He's already a 2-division world champion, fighting a champion for the belt. You know what I'm saying? That's going to be 2-division champion where he fought champions for the belt. So really, you can sit up here and say what you want, but yet he has bragging rights to say that, yeah, I did it the right way, and now I'm a 2-division champ. And Shakur Stevens is still super young in the game. But if they feed Jamel Herring to him, absolutely it's going to be probably Herring's retirement fight. Because he's definitely not going to be landing that left uppercut on Shakur Stevenson like he was Oquendo. I can guarantee you that. He's definitely not going to be up on the scorecards like he was with Oquendo before Oquendo made those street changes, so to speak. He made those street changes. He said, if I can't break you down technically, I'm going to break you down physically. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to inflict my physical detriment upon you. And that's exactly what you're seeing. And for Jamel Herring to say he couldn't see out of his eye, how's he still holding the belt? Like if you quit and say your eye was swelled up, but yet Tony Weeks had to be coached by the corner to say he was headbutting him in the eye. I mean, come on, man. Like, bruh. You surrendered. You capitulated to bow out of the contest you was currently campaigning or contending in. That's called quitting. You wanted to go. You quit. 2-division champion, he's moving. Yeah, man. Yeah, I like Shakur, man. I like what he has going on. He's basically letting it be known that he's not capping for anybody. He said during the pandemic he was moving up to 130, and that's what he did. That's what he did. He's already had a fight. Now he wants the big name. You can't be mad at him, man. You got to salute him, and you got to give him his respect that he's making moves and trying to pack away these divisions early. That's what Adrian Broner did, basically. You know what I'm saying? Adrian Broner, he moved how he moved. He just did it differently. He was clean at 35 and then skipped 40 and went up to 47. So, when I mention Adrian Broner in the mix, people don't like to hear that when they busy worried about what Gary doing. Like you only sitting up here looking at certain people moving up 2 divisions because you want to like another particular fighter. You always get that with 2 black fighters. People will pick and choose who they like the best. They will pick and choose. And they do it in such a way that the fighter that they choose to be favorite, they start dogging out the other fighter when the fighter is just as talented. They can't just cut it down the middle. Nah, that can't happen. You got to dog out one of the fighters to make the other fighter look good, to sell the narrative in who you want as the favorite. But yet, you want to say it's boxing. You true boxing talk and all that. And true boxing talk isn't just destroying another fighter just to praise another one and make them seem like the better fighter. And this is sort of what you're going to experience with Gary Russell and Devin Haney. That's basically what you experience with Errol Spence and Terence Crawford. Right or wrong? I mean, seriously, right or wrong in that? We have to see. We really have to see how this grows, man. I haven't really seen too much popping off today. I know some individuals are goddamn tired, dog. It's Tuesday. They say, man, I ain't touching that subject today, man. Shit, fuck that. I'm not touching that today. I did what all I had to do. Now we have to wait and see what the paperwork looking like. And then we can make it official. Where they start saying, okay, this fight is official. Gary Russell will be moving up 2 weight divisions to face Devin Haney, the current WBC world champion in the lightweight division. Boom. That's when we can really start pinning down scenarios. You know what I'm saying? Putting out hypotheticals. Having talking points about how does this fight play out. Because, if you're going to get on here and talk about Gary don't have a chance, or Devin Haney don't have a chance, you're just a temporary. If Gary Russell's never been stopped, then you can't say he's going to go in there and just get knocked out because he's moving up in a weight division. You know what I'm saying? You can't do that, especially if he's not cutting weight. He's moving up the gain weight to 35. I mean, I'm pretty sure it's going to be a much more healthier fight camp where he can just focus on training and not weight cutting because he's always in the gym, just like Devin Haney. But to say somebody's going to get absolutely washed and get knocked out is casual language. You know what I'm saying? Like, you cannot put that on a guy who hasn't been stopped. He went in there with a 2-time gold medal Olympian and lost a split decision. This is the one that y'all said that was knocking motherfuckers out, making people quit. He had some success with Russell in the last couple of rounds or whatever. But that was for a championship fight. He had to lose weight to get there. So when people say, oh, well, he making excuses for that fight. Well, guess what? He's telling you what exactly happened. But every time the name come up, y'all always link Lomanchenko to Gary Russell's freaking praise or criticism. Every time his name come up, you say, oh, Lomachenko beat him. It was a split decision. Well, he still beat him. You can't do that. You can't keep on linking them up. And then when Lomachenko name come up, you say, "Oh, you know who he beat, right? The longest reigning WBC champion, Gary Russell." Man, the bias is unfucking believable. Y'all can't sit up here and praise one motherfucker and then dog out the other. Like y'all praise Lomachenko for having Gary Russell on his ledger. But then when it comes to Gary Russell, he don't get any praise for stepping in there and going the distance with him. Y'all being biased, man. Y'all know what it is. Come on, let's keep it the hundo, man. Y'all being biased, man. Switching lanes a little bit. You know what was disappointing to me? Because I know why a lot of boxing channels talk about what's important, what is trending, so to speak. You know what was disappointing when I was just basically reading up on the 140 division, and we just seen um, Jose Ramirez go in there with Victor Posel in a very tough fight. You know, very competitive too, right? So I'm saying to myself, Jose Ramirez has the WBC and WBO belt, from my understanding, and Josh Taylor has the WBA and the IBF. Looking at both of these boxers having two belts, wouldn't it say, when you automatically assume that that's going to be a fight, a no-brainer, that they're able to link up and go for undisputed? Like, all of these freaking divisions are very close for undisputed. Even in the bantamweight division, you have a Nui with two belts, and then you have Casemiro on the end with WBO and Obali with the WBC. But even then, Anui is facing Jason Maloney and not Casemiro. It's almost like they don't want a motherfucking undisputed, a true undisputed. So with Jose Ramirez, man, I'm coming to find out that after this fight with Victor Posa, I'm thinking potentially it's going to be Josh Taylor, and now he's coming up to possibly fight Jake Cotrella. And I'm saying to myself, why in the fuck are you fighting him? And then you have Josh Taylor saying, "Yeah, I'm looking forward to the fight with Jake Cotrella and Jose Ramirez because we can have an all UK affair for the unified titles." I'm like, is that the way it is? Am I getting the same little energy that I'm getting from Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua shit? Like, these UK motherfuckers are really embracing the Duckmaster Coalition. He really hopes his countrymen go in here and defeat Jose Ramirez so they can have all UK unification. When obviously, why wouldn't you want to fight the tougher opposition, so to speak? Same thing with Anthony Joshua. I'm pulling for Tyson Fury. I'm pulling for Tyson Fury. I really want him to win. And then Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua has made a 2-fight agreement. They really desperate. They looking real desperate over there in the UK. Extremely desperate, man. So October 17th, you have Lomachenko Teo. Just keep your eyes out for that. I got to give a shout out to Steven Nelson. He had the dog in him. He went in there and did what he had to do. You know what I'm saying? I got to show him love on that, man. He went in there and got the job done against DeAndre, who, and from what I heard, he was able to provide CPR to a staff member that fell out. Y'all hold on for a second. Okay, we back. I don't know what the whole move is in this particular scenario. Taylor Horn, UK. Yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah, I look at it like that. Doug Master Coalition. Period. Give a shout out to. Yeah. For real. What the heck? Yeah, but that was good for him to do. Unfortunately, he was in there with a dog that night, Steven Nelson, man, and he got the job done. He ended up stopping DeAndre. You know, um, there are levels, and though a lot of people, you have some people that know Steven Nelson, but yet he's under the radar. He's undefeated, but I think seeing him fight recently, where you have a lot more people that are watching boxing now than when it was actually, just being held with a live gate. I think he probably picked up some more fans because it was an entertaining fight, man. Seriously, it was an entertaining fight. I enjoyed it. That was one of the best fights of the night, really. I know a lot of people are hyping up Bam Bam Rodriguez. Shout out to him getting the win, but his opponent act like he didn't want to be there. Bam Bam put the hammer down on him. Bam Bam put the hammer down on him. But between Jamel Herring and Rolly Romero, both of them fights was just controversial. Like, it's cool, man. Especially Rolly Romero, it was super controversial, man. It was a highway robbery, and if Rolly Romero say he don't want to give him a rematch, man, that's just seriously. That's like the bitch move, man. That's just bad. Rolly want to be this knockout artist and everything, but yet you don't want to give a boxer a rematch. That just goes to show you what people should be considering when they look at, Gary Russell and Devin Haney. At the end of the day, it's boxing. At the end of the day, it's boxing. I'm not comparing, Rolly Romero to Devin Haney skill-wise. I'm not. I'm just saying, at the end of the day, it's a sweet sign. It's boxing. It's, you can go in there and outbox somebody, and then have your opponent say, I landed the heavier shots. But you wasn't landing repetitiously to put away rounds like Jackson Marinez was. It was a robbery. Rolly in a robbery. I mean, it was crazy. And then Jamel Herring, if you quit and you say you can't see out of your eye, how does the fighter just stop, pause? The fight is over and you keep your strap. Boxing has been making up shit during this pandemic, man. They've been making up rules. They want to offer freaking franchise chip green panty belts. No criteria. They just want to create shit that we ain't been used to seeing. They're creating matchups that we're not used to seeing. And you asking yourself, like, why is this happening? Why is Terence Crawford fighting Kell Brook? He's in a whole nother division, isn't he? So you trying to tell me the limited company, there's nobody in the 47 division that can face Terence Crawford besides Kell Brook, who's at 154, right? Isn't he? Is Kell Brook legitimately at freaking 47? And mentioning the welterweight division, I'm just talking, freestyle topics. Someone did send me a video of Errol Spence, recent video. It seemed like he was having some fun. I mean, he's supposed to be in training camp for, his upcoming fight with Danny Garcia, but it seems like he was out with the fellas chilling. I don't know if he's intoxicated this time, but I just hope he's still focused. He said that the accident made him take it a little serious. And what I wanted to bring to people's attention, I mentioned this on the other live, people. I mentioned this shit on the other live. I told you. I said, listen, for somebody who ran bikes as much as I rode bikes and had my situations, your body receives interior damage that's naked to the eye, right? When you have these accidents, we're talking about motorcycles. So when Errol Spence was ejected from the car, and they talking about he got soft tissue damage, I was like, please. So now I read the article where Errol Spence is saying that he couldn't run. So that tells me, like, you really couldn't run. You had to stay in the bed, and your weight, basically, you're a 47. You're a 47 pounder. Your weight ballooned up to 96. And they just sitting up here telling people he lost some teeth and it was just soft tissue damage. No. If it's soft tissue damage, why wouldn't you able to go out there and freaking hit the road and push pavement and get back in it? If your teeth was knocked out, it's people that's, running around in boxing, working out with no teeth all day. Because it's not the reality of an accident of that severity, y'all. Don't believe that Errol Spence did not injure something else and they just not talking about it. Just like he had a misdemeanor DUI charge. Don't believe the hype for somebody who's driving a sports car that fast and have an accident and is thrown out and land face first on the pavement. You don't have some muscle damage, some joint damage, and shit like that. Don't think for 1 second when Errol say, I couldn't do anything and, my weight ballooned up 190. Check this out. Your weight didn't balloon up to 96 overnight. It took you a while to get up to 96. That means you was in pain. You had other existing injuries as a residual from that accident. And people need to understand that when you put Mikey Garcia in there with a fighter like Errol Spence, we're gonna see a lot. We're gonna see if Errol Spence is able to come back, not just in the first rounds, but is he able to fight? If the fight goes 12 rounds, is his body conditioned? Is his body healthy enough post-accident to go in there with somebody stylistically like Danny Garcia that matches up really well with Errol Spence? We know Danny Garcia hits harder than Mikey Garcia. So I'm curious to see, is there some underlying injuries that Errol Spence could potentially be nursing while he's in training camp right now, that they're trying to keep on the hush-hush? Because you're not going to balloon up to 196 pounds just because you got soft tissue damage. I've been in a motorcycle accident where you high side, you go into a tank slap and start shaking, and you high side, you get thrown to the pavement. I remember getting up off the pavement. I actually had a bubble. My stomach was swole. I had a bubble. Both my thighs was bruised the fuck up. Swole. Then I had a shoulder issue. And that was with a motorcycle. So I can only imagine him in a sports car, falling asleep or whatever happened, then get ejected from the car and land on grass or whatever still. I mean, that's going to fuck you up. What's going on, Kano? My sources tell me Spencer's yet to spar. Damn. I'm going to tell you, y'all. I'm going to tell you, man. I was trying to tell people. I say, man, don't believe that soft tissue shit. He's up here waiting, for the screws to heal in his bone of his mouth and everything. I get it. I understand, but you was ejected from a vehicle. You could have broke your neck. You know what I'm saying? I don't like using comparison to people that's in wheelchairs now and all that. But Diego Corrales lost his life on a motorcycle, okay? Paul Williams had an accident on a motorcycle. So you're asking yourself, what does that have to do with Errol Spence? Well, he was in a sports car with no seatbelt on, and it's just like being in a motorcycle. We don't have seatbelts on a motorcycle. So he was ejected from the car, and if he ain't in sparring yet, that's big, because obviously he's nursing something else, y'all. It just can't be he's waiting on the bones, the screws to heal in his mouth, and he got temporary teeth in, and then you're not gonna spar with those teeth in your mouth. Like, just look around. Look at Bernard Hopkins. When Bernard Hopkins finished his fight, they had to put his temporary teeth back in. You're not going into a fight thinking that you get hit in the mouth and those implants are not coming out. The screw will stay in, but the tooth will come out. You have mixed martial artists who has implants, and they get kneed in the freaking mouth. Those teeth are coming out into the canvas. And all they do is go back to the dentist. Everything good. Okay, let me take that impression. Got the impressions. Okay, just give me a little bit and get your permanents in, and then we'll put them in. Errol Spence has something else going on, in my assumption, man. Errol Spence has something else going on. People need to understand that. He landed on a tarmac. It was bad. It was bad. We all know that. But man, at the end, will perform. I don't doubt he's not gonna perform. I'm just saying how he's gonna perform against a fighter like Danny Garcia. Because stylistically, they match up very, very nice. Kano said him ballooning up that high ain't good. I believe it, man. Because that means if you ballooned up at 96, I don't want to really make any negative assumptions, but people that don't work out and still hold their nutrition down, they can still sustain good weight. But you were just telling us you made the fight with Sean Porter more difficult because you had to come down from 87 to 47. So now you have an accident and you balloon up and you're talking about you don't have no injuries. I'm savage. That's the text Errol Spence sent out. I think I still have it on my phone. No broken bones. I'm a savage. And then they told him to delete it. Spence stopped balloon up in weight. He in fight shape already. Salute, Jay. How you feel, man? I don't know about fight shape, bro. And we can all assume, being that we cover the sport. What is fight shape exactly? Fight shape to me is not getting abs and being a little cut. You know what I'm saying? That's not fight shape to me. Fight shape to me is sparring, boxing shape. If he's not sparring, how can he be in fight shape though? I mean, help me out with that point, Jade. That's all I want to know. Like, what's fight shape? What's your definition of fight shape? Because Rolly Romero, during the pandemic, he ballooned up in weight because he's talking about he was eating Korean barbecue and all that. But yet, when you see him fight his first fight back, you can tell he wasn't in fight shape. Even though he went the longest he did, it was times in there where he was gasping, fighting a boxer like Martinez. So he might have got, trimmed down to make weight, abs and all that. But I think he spent a lot of his damn fight camp losing weight. He wasn't in fight shape when it come to boxing, putting in rounds, getting that conditioning back. It's a difference, man. It's a difference. That's all I'm saying. It's a difference. Spence Jr. can fight his ass off. That's not what I'm saying. All I'm saying is that he needs to get away from that bad habit of ballooning. I agree, man. He said he has a different perspective on the sport now. But the video I just seen, it seemed like he was having some fun. Now, I don't have a freaking, blood alcohol component that I say, hey, EJ, where you at right now, man? I'm local, man. I just want you to take a breathalyzer right quick, bro, because I want to do a live stream. And if you don't mind, can you do the breathalyzer live so we can do it for the fans? That's not going to happen. Tyson say Conor Loco Spence is a Kell Brook times 2. Maybe for defenses and done. He no B-hop. 30-40 world title fights. Conor, you're right, 1,000%. Conor, I think you're right, but the man, one last fight, and that's my point. At some point, it's going to backfire. Jay, I agree. People think he's down. We don't know really until Danny land that first left hook. Yeah, man. I mean, you can say the same thing for Errol Spence too, but I'm wondering if, Errol Spence would be able to land a shot during the fight and catch Danny like he caught Sean Porter. You know what I'm saying? In the eye of the storm, he was still able to have that awareness to catch Sean Porter with that left hook. And the same thing, Danny. We know Danny has power, but Sean Porter, he landed that overhand right on Sean Porter. Man, he landed, some power punches on Keith Thurman. We'll see how Errol Spence takes it, man. Because if he ain't sparring yet, that's an issue. That means something else is not absolutely right, because we know about sparring. You're gonna get hit in all areas that's accessible, and we know if you're being ejected from a vehicle, you're gonna land on your head, your shoulder, all of that. Errol Spence is very blessed that he's not paralyzed. So if he indeed landed on his shoulder, his neck, and all that, then when you talk about joints, man, I'm telling you, man, some of that shit never heal right. Danny, look, he's terrible chasing the hold down. I'll say within 5 to 7 pounds of 47 for Spence, but he ain't sparring yet. Then he can't know if he's in fight shape. That's all I'm saying, Jade. I'm looking at fight shape as being not only you jump roping and going in here. We can do that all day long. We can use diet, cut weight, all that. What I'm talking about is him putting in some rounds. His joints are being impacted. He's getting back in the groove of being hit and, basically throwing some punches in the process. I just want to see how his body responds. I want to see if we get the same Errol Spence that was in there with the Sean Porter, or we get a better Errol Spence. I'm not wishing bad on nothing. I'm just saying, like, people are not looking at this. I'm telling you from reality of running bikes. You hit the pavement, you different. And you just ain't going up here getting in front of the camera talking about, yeah, everything is fine. I was missing some teeth and all. No. You don't know how small the muscle in your shoulder and the joint when you land on that motherfucker. You don't know how small the joints are when you mess up your knee. I think Air will punish Danny to the body. When I hear that, man, when I hear people say Errol punishing Danny to the body, even if I wanted to retort it or rebut it, it's difficult for me to do that. Because I absolutely peel back the layers on the weaknesses of certain, on fighters in general when I'm looking at how they're going to match up with the fighter they stepping in, like Errol Spence, right? And I heard Danny Garcia talk about his losses, his primary losses, right? He say, well, I just didn't take it serious as I should outside the ring, or something to the nature that he said. And I'm saying to myself, motherfucker, how can you not take the 2 biggest fights of your career serious? So when you talk about Errol Spence going to the body, if Danny Garcia is not working his core good enough, or he's not freaking looking at this outside of just, being in there with a big name like Errol Spence and looking to go in there and win, then Errol Spence might freaking damn drop Danny Garcia with a body shot if he ain't careful. Because we all know Errol Spence go to the body. So when I hear that, I can't sit up here and rebut it just for fun. Because Danny Garcia gives me that vibe sometime when he say he ain't take the fight serious. Like he could have did better. You know what I'm saying? Danny Garcia up here saying that. And I'm like, shaking my head like, them was the two biggest fights of your career, dog. Like, what do you mean you didn't do enough? And it wasn't like they was back to back, y'all. Mike McCallum. Okay. I spoke with a fighter that was at the Charlo gym in Houston when Spence was there. He said he did mid work and hit the heavy bag. See, man, you up here getting people that's talking to sources, man. You know what I'm saying? He said he spoke with a fighter that was at the Charlo gym in Houston when Spence was there. He said he did mid work and hit the heavy bag. So what does that tell you? He still has some situations that's healing, y'all. Appreciate the info, Jack. He still has some areas of concern that they don't want them gloves touching on right now because it's a big fight. Now, we know in the sport of boxing there have been fighters that kind of lacked in sparring. They kind of fucked off sparring a little bit because they felt deep down inside, as long as they get in shape, they can go in there and fight. It's all going to come back. They might take a little bit, 2 or 3 rounds, to kind of shake off, getting the timing down and everything. But they feel they can go back in there and make it happen. In this particular scenario with Errol Spence, him being ejected from a vehicle, you're just not going to have areas of your body that was damaged heal up. And then you get in there and somebody start punching that area. You're like, oh, shit. Why is this motherfucker so sore, man? Why don't he heal? I'm pretty sure he's getting treatment, all of that. But when you get ejected from a car, when you have an accident on a motorcycle and you have no seatbelt and you are airborne, once again, you are airborne and you land, you're hurting, even with a helmet on. You're hurting. He said he was cleared. You remember Errol Spence saying he was cleared to train? CT scans and everything? I don't know, man, because the skull is not made, first of all, to be hit with boxing gloves. The skull is definitely not made to be ejected from a vehicle and land on a dang tarmac, as Tyson mentioned earlier. The tarmac. It's not meant for our head to hit the ground like that. And we don't even know if Errol Spence was even coherent once the car was in the process of, in the mid part of the accident where he was ejected. He could have been dead ass sleep. You know what alcohol do to you. We know damn well it's not a misdemeanor DUI when you lose consciousness behind the wheel and have an accident like that. You can't sit up here and convince me that was just 2 drinks. No, man. Nope. Tyson said at Jackal Fitness, Spence is sweet, bro. No issues. We must respect integrity as a man, a real man. What integrity have to do with it? You actually believe Spencer's gonna get on here and let us know all the injuries that he's occurred? He's not gonna let us know, man. So does that have anything to do with integrity? Absolutely. Is he protecting the fight with Danny Garcia? Absolutely. Yes. So for him to get on here and say, well, everything's cool, We seen how Spence was talking when he talked with Brian Kenny on the first interview. You know, he had temporary teeth in his mouth wherever he lost teeth at. And he looked like he was kind of swollen, like he had that bloated look. That to me seemed like he might have been on some like medicine or something. But for him to get back in shape, that can happen. You can get back in shape. You can lose weight, but I don't think he's in boxing shape yet, especially if he's just hitting the bag and doing mitts. The island needs respect, train and relax, but he didn't hit the ground. I know he landed in the grass. So you trying to tell me the grass is not the ground? The only thing the cement is going to do for you is only thing the grass is going to do for you is going to save you a little more skin that could be basically extracted, peeled back from an abrasion from sliding on the pavement. But still, you can somewhat experience the same type of injuries if you landed in grass. It's not like it's a freaking artificial turf that he landed on. Shit, the grass could be much worse than the pavement. It depends on where you at. But I'm not going to get too in depth about that, man. But all I'm saying is, I hope he's taking it serious, because when he sent that text out, people need to understand, when Errol Spence sent that text out talking about no broken bones, I'm a savage, you don't have to have broken bones to have residual effects that stop you from training at 100%. You can have muscle damage. You can have joint damage. You can have situations that occur once you start getting hit in the head that you seeing lights, you getting dizzy. Believe me, I'm telling you, it's a difference between him going in here training and getting in shape, and then, he landed on his head, to him starting to get hit in the head and sparring with 16-ounce gloves, and then he started to see colors, spots, or whatever. It's a problem. It ain't shit Derrick James can do about that. Errol Spence like, hold up. Let's take a break right quick. Derrick gonna go over there like, what's up, man? He said, shit, he hit me, and I'm seeing motherfucking lights, dog. I'm not hurt, but I'm seeing lights. What Derrick James gonna do? He's not qualified in that position. He's a trainer. He's not a neurosurgeon. He's not a neurologist. The only thing he can say is, well, you want to go get it checked out? If Errol Spence go get it checked out, they might leak that he went and got some shit checked out. So basically, Errol Spence can be experiencing some shit and want to keep it to itself. Because, man, you can't fuck around with what happens up top, with your brain and everything. You can't fuck around with that when it comes to boxing. Like, it's a lot of shit you can get away with. Just say you had an accident like that, and you did have some injuries to psychologically or whatever. So just say you're not in the sport of boxing. So you can stay out, you can relax, and you allow yourself to go through therapy and stuff like that, because your everyday life, you're in a non-contact environment. You know what I'm saying? You're not waking up, trying to prepare yourself and get back in shape. And then damn well you have to get back into a physical element of full contact sports. It's not like that. You can go get therapy and everything else and get treatment. But for Errol Spence, if he was going through some type of situations where he was falling asleep or he's having headaches, all these residual effects you can have from having an accident like that, then guess what? We'll never know. Only Errol Spence will know, and the people that he confide in. And then, the first time he stepped back into training and he starts seeing spots, he get headaches and migraines. That's going to affect his training, y'all. A migraine will cripple somebody. A migraine would debilitate. It will place you in that stagnant mode. Say, shit, I gotta go lay down, man. I just gotta go take a break right quick. But he's in a physical sport, so I'm curious to know how his physical state is gonna be once he would start receiving punches and sparring. That's all. That's all I'm trying to say. I'm not saying that's what's actually going on with Errol Spence. Well, he stepped back in the ring. He got 8-ounce gloves on, so we'll see what's popping. Do a live, bro. I got views on it. Oh, I mean, I don't really do that. I already posted his video. You know, I don't really sit up here and do videos to get off somebody else's, you know what I'm saying, accident. I mean, I did that with the Kobe incident, but it wasn't Kobe. It was somebody speaking about it. I watched the crash live 1 hour after. He's a professional fighter, so once he's in shape by natural muscle memory, he's already in fighting shape. I'm telling you, fighting shape to me, when I had to train to get in shape to even spar anything, whether it be on the feet or striking, if I was in a motorcycle accident, you have to wait till certain areas heal. And though you was able to get back out on the road and start running and, you know, working on your nutrition and getting back into shape, it's the difference between when those shots start landing on you. You know what I'm saying? You start feeling that contact once again. Muscle memory goes so far. Now you have to think about it there, Tyson. You have to think about it. I mean, not Tyson. Primal Pit Boxing. You have to think about this. If you have some problems going on neurologically, what does fight shape have to do with it? Because neurologically, there's discrepancies going on. There's injuries. There's impairment. So that impairment is going to get worse if you have to go in there and start receiving punishment in sparring with 16-ounce gloves on or whatever. Neurologically, that entire system works differently than you just raising your arm up. You're raising your arm up mechanically. But when you think neurologically, we all know sensory wise, you have to send that command down to actually raise your arm up, right? If you fuck up the sensory, the system of the sensory, the neurological system, and you start seeing spots, don't you think it's gonna mess up the command given to do certain things in the ring, especially when you're taking punishment, when you're in the boxing ring? Yeah. I mean, it might put you in a situation, you know, that you have to think and you want your brain to respond. That's when they call it, you know, the pugilistica. That's when fighters say, I can't pull the trigger no more. And that's the same thing I'm trying to put out to you all right here. Errol Spence can have a portion of his impairment due to the impact of his head hitting the ground, the bare ground, right? He might get in the ring and start taking punishment, and then it comes down to him not being able to basically react the way he should or pull the trigger in certain cases because other shit is going on neurologically. Now that's outside of my scope of qualification, but I can base my opinion. You know what I'm saying? I'm just basing my opinion, man. I've been there in an accident. I'm telling you, man, like, you know what I'm saying? It's just a lot that has to be answered with the no seatbelt, vehicle ejection, and landing on the freaking hard pavement. I mean, the grass area or whatever. Yeah, appreciate the comment, man. Salute for stopping through there. Pit boxing. It takes forever for the mouth to heal because the mouth is always wet. Well, I put it to you this way, Jackal. The mouth, believe it or not, my brother, is one of the fastest healing properties. I'm not capping. Your mouth heals very fast. The only thing that prevents a mouth or something in the mouth from healing is an infection. When you have a natural injury to your mouth, just say somebody split your lip open on the inside, the shit heals pretty quick. Because I forgot what it was. It was on the tip of my tongue too. I remember speaking about this. They were speaking about this, man. Damn. I was in the class where they were speaking. I forgot about it. But just like the tongue, the lip, inside, it heals pretty damn good. And I get what you're saying, it's always wet, but think about it. When you have a situation where you get an abrasion on the outside in the skin and it's subjected to air, what do you have to do with it? You have to put a covering on it, right? What does that covering allow that wound to do? All it do is allow that wound to scab up. It'll allow it to basically reapply, try to reapply the skin that's missing through a scab to heal itself. But you have to cover it up. A mouth, you don't. The properties of the mouth, I forgot the language that they use, but it heals very fast, man. Real talk. It's amazing. It's amazing how the mouth can heal. But like, once again, I'm not talking about you getting hit in the mouth with a bat. You know what I'm saying? I'm not talking about, you taking a blade. You know what I'm saying? I'm talking about the mouth. The inside of the mouth heals pretty damn good. Like, you get a tooth extracted, the real pain is only going to last. It should last like, 48 hours. And then it start, the healing process take over and everything else. And that shit goes away. Good shit, though. The Spence camp is very secretive when it comes to leaking out information on Spence. They're not going to tell you everything that's really going on. Yeah, man, especially with Errol Spence and this big fight coming up. Isn't this fight PP? Let me see. This fight PPV? Is that fight PPV? Him and Danny Garcia? Is Showtime putting on PPV? Or is it going to be on regular TV? I thought it was going to be PPV, right? It has to. It has to. Right? Because I know the Charlos are PPV. We're talking about Showtime fights, right? The Charlos are PPV. Gervonta Davis and Leo Santa Cruz is PPV. So I'm pretty sure Danny Garcia and Errol Spence is pay-per-view. I'm pretty sure. It has to be PPV, man. I'm pretty sure. They going for the bag. Danny Garcia, Errol Spence is going for the bag. It has to be. And with that said, Derrick James is not going to leak out any information about, Terence Crawford seeing spots or why he ain't sparred yet, man. I'm telling you, don't believe the shit. Don't believe it's just soft tissue damage and I'm good. Man, when you land on your head, even with the helmet on, you feeling different. What did Timothy Bradley say about, his following his match with Provodnikov when he took all that damage? What did he say? His speech was slurred for a couple of weeks after that fight. Believe me when I'm telling you, man, when it comes to that entire sensory system up top, what we call the brain. You can talk about soft tissue damage all you want. Even though we have protection, the skull is somewhat protection. The impact can basically fuck up and damage parts of the brain. That's why you see people that let's just say they knocked out. People just get knocked out and hitting their head on the pavement and they end up dying. Just from that short distance from them standing up and them hitting the ground, they can die. It's not like they're falling off the back of a truck. They can get hit and then froze up, drop to the ground, and die because they had a head injury. So that's standing in one place. That's stationary. Imagine going high speeds and being ejected out of the vehicle and hitting the ground. You see my point? It can get bad real quick. Like you have somebody that falls straight back on the portion of the brain that's the most vulnerable to brain damage. You had some of them people that die. And they crack open, they do the autopsy and split open their skull, man, and that portion where they fell at, the brain is dead. Danny gonna make Errol into a cabbage. He sounds slurry. Well, you know, Errol Spencer's not like he was a fast talker when he was in good condition anyway. So, you know, attributing the fact that he had an accident, you know, I wish him the best, man. But I'm just trying to tell people, like, don't believe the hype that this man was ejected from a vehicle and he's this Superman. He's not Superman. It don't matter if he's able to walk around and function. It's a difference. He's in the hurt business. He's not freaking a school teacher. You know what I'm saying? He's not a CEO of a company where he's in a non-physical sport, a non-physical freaking type of environment. He's in a physical full contact sport. So if you hurt yourself and you're in a situation where you know the physical aspect, you know, from the exterior to the interior has been damaged, then guess what? For Errol Spence, he can keep it a secret all he wants. But if Danny Garcia crack him and he gets dropped, unlike we seen him before, we know. Okay, let me break this down a different way. I try to explain this to people a lot when it comes to when they say the chin. So-and-so don't have a chin. Is it really the chin or individuals that have neurological problems where they're able to get knocked down and some people recover quickly and some people don't? That's what I'm getting at with this. This accident can basically put Errol Spence in a situation where he's susceptible to getting knocked down more than we've seen him before. Because neurologically, that shit may function different. Like when Amir Khan get hit, neurologically, Amir Khan can never get any better at that. He can fight different. You know what I'm saying? He can put on a different strategy and protect himself. But Amir Khan, neurologically, when he gets hit a certain way and his brain is jolted, he's down. That's neurological. It don't have nothing to do with your chin. People just say it because the punch land on your jawline or your chin, right? But when it comes down medically, it all has to do with your brain and the functionality of your brain. That's all. Look at any person. This is like Anthony Joshua. Anthony Joshua has the same problem. It's not that he came into the sport with the problem. It's how he's built, period. Anthony Joshua doesn't have a chin when it comes to his body sustaining punishment like that. His brain is not capable of just staying on. The light doesn't stay on when he received punishment. So that's why he's been dropped several times, because neurologically something's wrong. That's why you hear these, you see these fighters, you listen, interview these fighters, right? Some of these fighters that was in the sport for quite some time, they have slurred speech. Why? You think it's just because of them being punched in the face? No. No. Neurologically, they know what they want to say, but their brain is not allowing them to speak. It's not like their jaws aren't basically engaging the same way they did before. It's confusion, man, neurologically. It's not working the way it was. It's not 100% anymore. That's why people die early. You have people die early from taking all this punishment. You have people going and, experiencing dementia. I mean, look at Pritchard Cologne. Look at Adonis Stevenson. They didn't get hit. They didn't get ejected from a car. They was injured inside the ring. They didn't have loaded gloves. Their opponent didn't have loaded gloves and nothing like that. They had been in boxing matches time and time again. But neurologically, it got to a point where they even had pre-existing situation going on up top that they never wanted to get checked out, or they was aware of it and they just kept on fighting because they needed the paycheck. Let's look at recently the OG. Good dude, Zab Judah. Zab Judah was functioning normal. Everything was good. And he went in there his last fight. And he ended up in the hospital, man, bleeding from the brain. That was serious. That's to prove my point. That's why, I don't really get on here talking about, calling boxers bomb and shit like that. I know you hear people say that, but it's too many people that never even laced up and been in sparring. They quick to call motherfuckers cans and bombs and shit. And when there's a more technical aspect physically that fighters go through that fuck them up. The migraines, headaches, motherfuckers going to sleep too often, not being able to pull the trigger, not being able to think on how to apply something that was so simple early in their career. They can't do it anymore. They see what's going on, but mechanically their brain is not sending out the transmission quick enough in order for them to respond. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, I'm speaking too much on that shit. But you're right on that, Jackal. I believe it. I believe it, man. Danny gonna let me see. You just taught me something. I didn't know that. Yeah, pay-per-view. Okay, so it's PPV, Fox. I don't know what you're mentioning, Alexander. What are you mentioning? What are you mentioning exactly? First of all, let's make this understood. I'm just basing an opinion of educational knowledge from college. So once again, Wilder names come up here. You know what I'm saying? T. Joyner, what's good? Appreciate you, man. So what do you mean by Wilder? Okay, let me assume what you're talking about, because people like to take subliminal shots because they hear me talking about Wilder. All right. So I guess the slingshot is, do I see the same thing what I just talked about with Wilder? So let's take a look at this. Are you just basing it off one fight with Fury? Now, we're just basing it off one fight with Fury. Let me compare that to Deontay Wilder being knocked down and the time and how he was knocked down. We all know one knockdown, his feet was entangled, right? And the other one, he was basically punched behind the left ear. So that in itself, being punched behind the ear and everything, that's a different type of shot to the head, right? The recovery for which it took for a person that's 6'7" to get back up has nothing to do with simple, he was hit with a shot. That is outside of what I was speaking about when it comes to, neurological impairment. When a fighter gets hit, if anybody get hit the right way, especially in the heavyweight division, you can get dropped. But the point I was trying to make is, you have individuals that get knocked out easily. For instance, I can say with Wilder, he has one of the best chins in the heavyweight division. You can't sit up here and say Fury has the best chin in the heavyweight division, and he's been down more times than Wilder. But look who he's been hit against. You also have to weigh that in consideration. Who dropped them? Are they being dropped by legitimate power punchers? Are they being dropped just from the punch landing? The only assessment I can make is when I'm making my point is you have some fighters out here that's neurologically deficient. They get touched on the chin by a punch that's not even incredibly powerful. They on the ground. They done. And that's why I used the fighters that I did, the Amir Khans and Anthony Joshua's. Because every time you see them, they're on the ground. You cannot fix a chin like that. You might see fighters that get knocked out. Like, say, for instance, Roy Jones. Roy Jones was knocked out by Antonio Tarver. But also, Roy Jones came back and went to a decision with Tarver, too. They fought 3 times. You have fighters who have been on the ground. That's not the point I'm making. The point I'm making, when you see a fighter that has a bad chin, like Tito Trinidad, another perfect example. He had that deficiency. Tito Trinidad had it in a good way, though. Tito would get dropped, but yet for Tito, he had a solid recovery time, like the quick recovery to him being dropped. And then when he was able to get back to his feet, his brain allowed him to be more intensive than he was before. Because every time Tito was dropped, he pressed the issue even harder. You know what I'm saying? It all depends. Let's just put, for instance, Sugar Shane Mosley and Floyd Mayweather. Come on, man. That's the worst trouble we seen Floyd Mayweather in. That's the worst trouble. Now, let's separate the flash knockdown from a real power punch like Sugar Shane landed on Floyd. Floyd proved neurologically he is strong. Because when you see the legs give, but the brain recoups and allow that person to recover at the split of a second, that can deal with a lot of things. That can deal with the way you're taking care of your body. That can deal with how strong your brain is. Everything. When Sugar Shane hit Floyd Mayweather, and all he did was put up his high guard, and he was able to work through it and clinch and hold on to Shane. And then the second time Shane landed and Floyd knees buckled a little bit, but he quickly recovered. He doesn't have that issue. He doesn't have it. But you have individuals that's in contact sport that will always get knocked down. I'm talking about bad. And though, some people have it worse than others, somebody who experienced it in the sport of boxing and they keep on getting hit with hard punches, it get worse over time. And you see them getting knocked out more and more as old as they get. And that's where you see fighters with slurred speech. It's not that they can't open their mouth. They can open their mouth. It's just, in order for you to even say anything, your brain has to process the command for which you're trying to apply. You want to talk. You want to take your finger and touch a certain part and do something. Your brain has to tell you to do it. You have nerves. If your brain is not fully functional, like we're talking about, what's the time? I can't even give you the time it takes for your brain to send that out and it to come back. So just put that in perspective to someone who has brain deficiency in boxing and they continue to take punishment, how it can degrade over time and allow them not to be able to pull the trigger, as they call it. And then you get to a point like, man, so-and-so slow. Like, what the fuck? He ain't the same. Like, what is going on? Why is they like? Because their brain is in a much more degraded state. That's why you have seen, look, it's documented. Look it up. You have had, what was this fighter name? Damn it. You've had certain fighters, man, that have did inverted cryotherapy. Inverted cryotherapy. What the fuck was that fighter's name, man? It was a fighter out there that had serious issues going on with pugilistica. He just felt like that he was having short-term memory loss and all this other stuff. He wasn't able to train and pull the trigger. Man, I forgot his name. But anyway, they was doing inverted crowd therapy. And we already know what crowd therapy is. It allows your body to recover 10 times faster than what, cold actually allows you quick recovery, way quicker than heat, right? So they was trying something new where the temperatures dropped down tremendously, but yet they was doing it for the brain. And it must have been extremely painful, but from what they were saying, that the test was coming back with improved brain functionality. They showed the before, and then with this treatment, they were showing the after process of someone doing inverted crowd therapy to improve the functionality of their brain. And I'm gonna leave it at that because I'm not really qualified to go as much as in depth, but that's just something I was kind of studying on, whatever, back in the day. Some of these fighters, the stories just come out, and these fighters has been in the combat game for a long time, and they go through this situation where you're talking about fighters who's being kicked in the head with shins, elbows, knees, and they go through a story where, they was in a bad place and they try this out, try that out. Yeah, man, it's fucked up. Anyway, back to the comments. But I wasn't sure what you was talking about, a boxing taking damage. Deontay Wilder haven't really took any damage though, that Alexander. I mean, he really haven't took any damage. Like, check this out. Just look at the most damage we've seen him taking from a boxer that has respectful punching power, right? And that's Luis Ortiz. Luis Ortiz was able to hurt Deontay Wilder in the 7th round for approximately 41 seconds. During that time, Ortiz landed some bombs on Wilder. Some bombs on him. And Wilder never hit the canvas. Wilder never hit the canvas. Ortiz had an incoherent Deontay Wilder buzz during that fight. And he was landing some solid heavyweight punches. And he still couldn't drop Deontay Wilder. Deontay Wilder neurologically has a strong system. He's built different. You can tell he built different by the way he punches. But we cannot deny that he has a very solid chin. Tyson Fury. We can say that Tyson Fury, even though he's been down more times than Wilder, he has a pretty decent recovery to his neurological system, because Deontay Wilder knocked him the fuck out. But somehow he was able to get off the canvas, man. I mean, he hit him with a right and the left. So he was on his way down with the right, and the left just put a hallmark on it, and he was out. But Tyson Fury, once again, he got up. This is a part of boxing that people just really don't pay attention to. They just say, so-and-so, he got knocked out here, this and that. Man, a lot of people are not even educated enough to understand these fighters fight with heavier gloves in sparring, and also with headgear on some of the time, right? But yet, if it's not a problem and you're going to say they get knocked out, you're not including the fact of them sparring and the size gloves that they're using, right? If it's not a problem, why did the Olympics change the rules? If headgear supposedly is allowing the fighter to be subjected to more damage with headgear on than without headgear, then what is that saying? If it went all the way through the Olympics for them to change it, what does that tell you? If people are still in sparring and they're using headgear so they won't get cut, you know what I'm saying, so it can protect, that is damage. And plus, you with a larger ounce glove too in sparring. So you're talking about larger gloves, headgear, and we're talking about continuously sparring. What does sparring mean? That means you can spar Monday, and then potentially you can come back in and spar Tuesday, skip Wednesday, come back Thursday, and just say you're going 8 to 10 rounds of sparring. You don't think that's more damage than an actual fight? Yo, actual fight, you wearing the regulated gloves, according to what division you in, up to 47, 8 ounces. Then after that, you change over to 10 and all that, right? But I'm telling you, you going in there sparring, and you're not taking no time off. Like you have a fight, you take time off, you're recovering and all that. But when you in fight camp, you have consistent sparring for whatever the schedule is like, and you taking punishment, period. That all contributes to your process with the brain, man. I ain't a doctor, man. Let me stop, man. I see it with quite a few boxers. Name them, man. I don't know what quite a few boxers is. You know how many boxers are in the sport globally? Name them so we can talk about them. What we talking about? I mean, how boxers speak in interviews, boxers so many. Okay, absolutely. I can name you some, but I don't want to sit up here and have people, man, I don't like how you was talking about so and so, man. I don't like that, man. Man, you supposed to be a brother, man. That's not it. Because I can use a perfect example, man. I can use examples of fighters who have taken mad punishment and still can talk just fine. You can hear every word. I can give you 2 examples right now. I can give you a couple examples right now of fighters who took punishment. But when you talk to him in person, you're like, oh shit, man, this motherfucker, he was in some wars, man. He still talked just fine. Like, goddamn. All right. Mickey Ward. We all know Mickey Ward was in some wars. You talk to him, Mickey Ward still talked just fine. But if you listen to Emmanuel Augusta, he doesn't. You look at the stable of Abel Sanchez and freaking Gennady Golovkin at his age, and you look at Terry Norris, they both use the same style. But Terry Norris, you can tell he has those signs of slurred speech and pugilistica, man. Gennady Golovkin don't yet. He doesn't. You can get knocked out in the ring and still never have signs of slurred speech once your career is over. Usually fighters who start to go through this, it happens while they're still active as a fighter. Just listen to them. They all sound alike. Look at Riddick Bowe for a perfect example. This is the beauty of trying to make this point. Riddick Bowe, look at his box record and tell me how many losses. So you look at how many losses he don't have, right? But yet you look at and hear him speak, and let's say you factor in the Golota fight. If you factor in the Golota fight, it still doesn't mean just because he took some damage in that fight that he was hit in the nutsack and shit that caused him to get, pugilistica. No, it's how your body is. It's how it's all a part. It's how your body is wired. Because some fighters really didn't take a lot of punishment, and they were still hit up top, and they degraded much faster than a fighter who may have been taking care of their body differently. I don't know. Like I said before, this is outside my medical scope of qualification. It's just all from reading and shit. But if you look at Riddick Bowe didn't take a tremendous amount of punishment like that. And he got the same thing. You can't understand nothing Riddick Bowe is saying. It's really bad. Like, one scenario people will talk about, they would mention James Toney. But in James Toney's career, he did take some shots to give a shot. But you didn't see James Toney rolling all around the canvas, being knocked unconscious like Amir Khan, James Kirkland and all those people. You know what I'm saying? You just didn't see that, right? But neurologically, something was wired different to the point where it came for him, his fight is over, to hear him speak the way he does. It all depends, because James Toney didn't have a weak chin, but he did take punishment. So neurologically, his brain is affected in a different way that it impairs a little bit of clarity on how he's able to speak. Now, another perfect example, Evander Holyfield. When I spoke to Evander Holyfield recently, when he was in Alabama, Evander Holyfield used to lead with his head all the time and take punches to that head. If anything else was present, there was that head. Evander Holyfield took some punishment to the head. But when you hear him speak, you still can understand him. Everything he's talking about, he speaks just like, you know what I'm saying? It might be some time that he has to think and process shit, but as far as his verbiage goes and him expressing himself, it's still clear. It's clear. Who else? Who else did I spoke to? Well, we know Bernard Hopkins. Bernard Hopkins is good to go. You know what I'm saying? It don't matter if Jess Hart. You know what I'm saying? I mean, he's still good to go, man. Who else I can mention? Who else I ran into that has that situation? Even Jared Cooney, man, he's still good. He's still clear. I can hear everything. You know what I'm saying? Still good to go. It all depends on how your body is wired. That's all. Because not everybody who takes punishment comes down with that slurred speech, that pugilistic type stuff. Not everybody gets like that. Some people does. Some people go through that process. But anyway, I was just touching on that because it's when I mentioned Anthony Joshua, he has that same thing, man. And people think I'm just sitting up here. They want to say I'm hating, but no, I kind of like looking at shit like that. Like, why does Anthony Joshua hit the ground so much? Like, why does he go down from a Vladimir Klitschko so easily? Why was he down against an Andy Ruiz, who's not really a power puncher like that? And then if you find out you got a chin problem, then you have to fight different that may not be fan pleasing. But Anthony Joshua truly understands that he has an issue with being dropped. Even the Klitschkos, the Klitschkos was dropped. I mean, Vladimir, you can be dropped, but that doesn't mean you have one of those switches that time you clipped on the chin, your ass dropped. Like, I don't know how you fix it, but Amir Khan cannot fix that shit, man. Amir Khan cannot fix it. Who else that I can say that might have this same situation? What's some other names is out there? Like Sergey Lipinets, he don't have it. Sergey Lipinets, tough as fuck. Let me see. Charlo's got pretty good chins. I'm saying, oh. Another example, gonna make some people upset. I think J Rock might have a suspect chin, man. Seriously. I mean, I don't know. I think it's according to his conditioning. I think something, but the way he was knocked out, I will have to see him go in there with another tough opponent to see, because Charlo hit him with an uppercut, and then Jason Rosario hit him with multiple punches, but yet an uppercut was in there and still led to the same demise. But I'm not saying he might have that, but I'm just saying, looking at him and being dropped as easily as he faltered to the canvas, yeah. Who else I can put in there? I can't really put. I know Daniel Jacobs has been down, but I can't put him in there. I don't know, man. I'm gonna get off that subject because I don't want people dropping shit in my inbox. Talking about, man, why are you sitting up here, talking about Errol Spence? I'm just saying, man. Remember I said, if Errol Spence get in here and get hit by Danny Garcia, who then dropped Keith Thurman, who then dropped Errol Spence. He did drop Lucas Matisse, though. But I'm just saying, if Errol Spence get dropped by Danny Garcia more than once, don't think it's just because Danny Garcia is in the best shape of his life. It's because Errol Spence, from what he received in that accident, might have damaged a portion of his brain that when the light switch is hit, that shit goes off quickly. And we might see Spence, getting dropped. You know what I'm saying? It might be that way. But anyway, man, I'm going to get off that because I wish Spence nothing but the best, man. But it's kind of messed up, seeing him in the new video. I don't know if he was intoxicated or not, but he said he had a new perspective on life and his training. So I don't know, man. It's all good to party with your friends or whatever, but you got a big ass fight coming up. But I think let me see what else before I get up out of here. Oh, yeah, I want to talk about my boy Yadina Zugas, man. Yadina Zugas, man, I just don't know what's going on with this guy. People, he's sitting atop the ranks, y'all. And that fight he had with Rodney Hernandez was just absolutely unentertaining. I mean, it wasn't even entertaining. It seemed like he fought safe. But even when he could have boxed and really dug deep and made it a war, he didn't want to take that risk. But when the scorecards was about to be read, he was praying, to the pantheon of boxing to give him a decision so he can pick up that belt. And it seems like he was happy to be able to pick up a belt for the first time. But he's not the boogeyman of the division. I thought he fought better against Sean Porter, but he's absolutely not the boogeyman of the welterweight division. He wasn't exciting, and people are not gonna pay to see him on PPV. They're not gonna pay to see that on PPV, man. Anyway, I'm moving off your Yadina Zugas, man. It was just disappointing. Anyway, man, do better. Seriously, we want to see something else. Everybody's up in arms about Sean Porter in these rankings. I tried explaining to you all, when it comes to these rankings and they want a fighter to be in a certain place, they'll put him there. Perfect example, Carlos Ocampo. Carlos Ocampo somehow, some way became Errol Spence Mandy, right? That dude came out of fucking nowhere. He got the shot, closed out in the first round. No one's really heard of him again. So I was just doing a live, and I said Sean Porter was ranked number 9th in the IBF. And he was ranked 2nd in the WBO. Because people was talking about, why don't Terence Crawford fight Sean Porter, this and that. But Danny Garcia was the number 1 ranked. He was the number 1 ranked in the WBO. sanctioning body. But then recently they turned it around and put Sean Porter in front of Danny Garcia. But yet you look over at the WBC, Sean Porter is ranked number 1 for Errol Spence WBC crown after he defeated Sean Porter. After he look, Sean Porter is ranked number 1 in WBC after Errol Spence defeated Sean Porter. I'm not sure how that works. Somebody tell me how that all works, though. Because at one point in time, Sean Porter was ranked number 1 in the WBC, but he was ranked 9th in the IBF. It's almost like they was punishing him with in-house detention because he used to be an IBF champion. Kell Brook took his title, which Spence ultimately got. But yet, when Sean Porter stepped in there against Errol Spence, he couldn't get his title back, even though it's for what? Sean Porter's WBC and Errol Spence IBF, right? So Sean Porter defeats Errol Spence. Errol Spence defeats Sean Porter, but yet he stays ranked number 1. I don't gather how that's possible. How in the fuck is Mikey Garcia climbing the ladder the way he did? All because he wasn't the champion at 140 actively before he moved up to 47. He did pick up a belt, but he wasn't. He vacated it. How did Mikey Garcia come over here and fight Errol Spence? That's the ticket. Mikey Garcia fought Errol Spence and then fought a Jesse Vargas. And people want to say, oh, Jesse Vargas, he's a quality opponent. No one said he wasn't. But is people calling to see Jesse Vargas fight? So how can Mikey Garcia be ranked up in the top 5 in all of these sanctioning bodies, man? How does that process work? I'm telling you all, I'm giving you fair warning. Don't take these sanctioned bodies seriously, because whoever they want to slide, they'll slide them easily. What you seeing with Sean Porter and freaking Terence Crawford, I'm telling you, the powers that be are moving the chessboard, moving the chess pieces on the board. You think I'm going to sit up here and talk about a unification? You think I'm going to talk about the same shit all the time? When it comes to some of these some of these divisions, like the welterweight division, and we want to talk about Errol Spence, Terence Crawford, that shit ain't happening no time soon. It's no way it's happening when the WBA is not in the hands of Crawford or Spence. We're done talking about it. Errol Spence and Terence Crawford is not happening anytime soon. So please, we don't have to talk about that no more. We don't have to talk about it. Just like I mentioned earlier about Jose Ramirez and Josh Taylor. They have 2-2. But Jose Ramirez about to go in there and fake Jake Catrella. Why? Just to see if he can get the belts off Jose Ramirez? Why is Naoya Nui in the bantamweight division facing Jason Maloney? Why isn't he facing freaking John Casimiro? Because the reason why I said Casimiro, who's the WBO champion, because Nonito Donaire lined up to face Nordine Abali, which just faced Nui and went the distance and lost. So why isn't Nui the unified champion facing Casimiro? Man, they ain't trying to unify no motherfucking division. You know why Usyk was able to unify the cruiserweight division? Because nobody give a fuck. Nobody gives a damn. You know why it's going to be so far off in the horizon for us to see a heavyweight undisputed championship if Deontay Wilder gets his title back? Because they're going to look at it like, damn, our plan didn't work, so let's make him work for it. But if Tyson Fury, keeps the WBC title, then you're going to see them finessing and finagling Alexander Usyk, because I'm pretty sure Anthony Joshua is going to fight Kubrat Pulev. After that fight, and after we see the winner of Deontay Wilder and Fury, Then you're going to see them trying to make a unification match if it's Fury. If Wilder gets his title back, and then you're going to see everything start to break apart with Anthony Joshua. Believe me when I say it. Watch what I tell you. They're going to split them belts up to some of them fighters that's across the pond so they can become champions. So Deontay Wilder can fight somebody else. But if Tyson Fury wins, they're going to be like, okay, all right, we're going to make this unification bout. Kubrat Pulev, I know you had plans of stepping in there with the champ. Okay, you can go ahead and do it, but we're going to give you the same orders that we gave Charles Martin. Greg Louganis time. Diver, proceed to the end of the board. Pool is clear. Diver, you are clear. That's when you take that dive. Kubrat Pulev ain't about to win these unified titles. Let's be clear. But the fight that they want for the big money is Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua. They trying to finagle whatever they can do, try to finagle themselves to that damn unification bout. But for Deontay Wilder, the betting odds are going to be crazy. Deontay Wilder goes in here and stop Tyson Fury or defeat Tyson Fury after that controversial shit of him losing. It's going to shake up the UK, y'all. It's going to shake up the UK because it comes back down to reality when people look at Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury. Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua. It comes back down to reality because people are going to say, listen, we know Deontay Wilder is dangerous. We know that. But Tyson Fury Tyson Fury gave us what we was looking for. I'm not talking about we as in me. Let's be clear. I'm generalizing. So Tyson Fury gave us that one loss that we was looking for Deontay Wilder, right? And in the process, he knocked him down twice. So a lot of people was waiting for that to happen. So Tyson Fury, with his height and weight and his boring ass style, he was able to give the people what they wanted. So Deontay Wilder goes back in there, and just say he goes in there and drop Fury once. It's gonna reignite what we already knew about the hardest puncher in boxing, right? So just say he goes in there and stop Tyson Fury this time. Coming off that rematch, that brutal rematch where he took a lot of punishment. That's going to build up momentum for Deontay Wilder like no other. And people going to be like, damn, this motherfucker dangerous as shit. It's no job. Now they have two fighters to choose from. They have Deontay Wilder, who they was booing in the MGM Grand, and they have Anthony Joshua. Both are somewhat similar in complexion, even though Anthony Joshua is fighting under the umbrella of the UK colors. People going to look at that like, we don't really know Anthony Joshua, but we know Deontay Wilder. So they're going to pick and choose. They say who we need to go for. And you know, when it comes down to it, Deontay Wilder may have to go over to the UK to fight Anthony Joshua. I'm just saying. Because they feel that's where the money's probably going to be if the fight ever presents itself in that setting. He may indeed have to go over there to the UK. So what's gonna present itself again for Deontay Wilder when it comes to the U.S. fans? It's gonna be what we already knew. The fans who support him, we already knew he was the most dangerous man, right? It's gonna reignite what we was paying attention to in 2018 when Deontay Wilder was trying to negotiate with Anthony Joshua. And they was trying to give him flat fees, 12 million, 15 million flat fee, right? He goes in there and stop Fury. It's almost like presenting the same scary movie with, another scary, No, it's just like basically saying another scary movie is coming out. And you know, Jason is the same character. We already know Jason fucked somebody up. But we have a different storyline this time. It's going to be the same thing with Deontay Wilder. Everybody know that Anthony Joshua was scared to step in there with Deontay Wilder. I don't give a fuck what they say. His fans know that. Eddie Hearns know that. The UK freaking boxing community know that. Even with the one loss on his record, they still don't want Deontay Wilder to face Anthony Joshua. Because Anthony Joshua knows deep down inside, that he feels some type of way about the power of Deontay Wilder. Anthony Joshua really don't want to be the recipient on the front side of Deontay's glove, especially if it's from the right side. I enjoy saying that shit in the group. I said at the same time when he was facing Luis Ortiz, right? People was like cheering for Deontay Wilder because it was a Cuban versus an American. But then when he gets hurt, they try to assume that this is what they were saying about Deontay Wilder. Oh man, we knew this was gonna happen. We knew he was gonna get stuck. And then he recovered and knocked him out. Everybody said, oh shit, Deontay Wilder, yeah, that's my guy. That's my guy. Deontay Wilder, that's my guy. But you wasn't saying that when Luis Ortiz buzzed him in the 7th. You was like, that's who we thought. We know Deontay Wilder can be hurt. We knew. All I can say is, when he returns and he ain't said shit, if you think that Southern bronze bomber, goddamn, man, come on, man. You think Deontay ain't sit back and been listening to these motherfuckers, dog, and put dirt on his name, man? You think he ain't been listening to this shit? Seriously, that's a question I'm asking. Do you think out of all the fights that's out there on the horizon, people are not talking about this trilogy? Do you think it's not one of the biggest fights still in boxing history when it comes down to it? Because ultimately, Deontay Wilder get his belt back, man. It shakes up everything. I want you to bookmark this shit. Deontay Wilder win his title back. I almost guarantee you Joshua is going to find a way not to fight his mandatory and drop a belt. So therefore, Joshua will not be responsible for facing Deontay Wilder. You see how they up here making agreements and shit? Him and Tyson Fury? I guarantee you he ain't gonna make no agreement with Deontay Wilder once Tyson Fury out the picture. I don't have to respond to that. Because if you follow this channel long enough, you would know that's not the case. And you probably seen me say and go against people that say, oh, every time you face Deontay Wilder, people say it's fanboys. Man, get under your original name. Just come over here under your original name. Don't come over here on the ghost account. I can't give you the proper attention when you come over here on ghost accounts saying the same thing. You know what I'm saying? I need a solid reference when you over here so I can respond accordingly. You just can't go over here and say somebody a fanboy. You know it's true. You know it's true. Anthony Joshua was absolutely paranoid leading up to this trilogy. Anthony Joshua is so afraid of Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder trilogy. He's not even able to focus on his fight with Kubrat Pulev. Because look, them putting Dillian White in the picture and hoping Dillian White get in position to face Deontay Wilder is out the window. Because for one, Deontay Wilder has lost his belt, right? So we saw what happened with Dillian White potentially facing Tyson Fury. It's not going to happen anymore. He's done. Alexander Povetkin shut that door. Done. So now it comes down to the trilogy where people know when they're sitting in their rooms with the door closed with the lights off. It might just be a little bit more sunlight coming in through the window. Where freaking dawn is brushing shoulders with dusk. They know that there's a big percentage, a huge percentage, that Deontay Wilder will come back and starch Tyson Fury. They know in their heart of hearts that that's a big possibility. That when you understand the sport of boxing, power is the last thing to go. We understand that. Power is the last thing to leave. And you look at the punishment for which Deontay Wilder was taken and the towel coming in, Tyson Fury did not stop Deontay Wilder. So I just want to get clarification to all the people that's convoluted and their retention span is short, especially when it comes to Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury. It's the weakest way to earn a knockout, when a towel comes into the ring and the fight is stopped. Tyson Fury did not stop Deontay Wilder. The towel did. Mark Breland threw in the towel and the fight was stopped. So therefore, it kind of takes away a lot of the prestige from Tyson Fury laying claim that he stopped Deontay Wilder. That's not the proper language to use. So let's just say Tyson Fury was the recipient in being the winner in a rematch. All right. So now, due to good business, Deontay Wilder is set to return in the rematch whenever that's the case. And everybody's going to be tuned in. Like, just think about it. Everybody's going to be tuned in to that fight. I know we're talking about Teofimo Lopez and Vasyl. We're talking about potentially Gary Russell and Devin Haney. You know, even the Charlo. Nah, nobody's not really talking about the Charlo brothers. But yeah, you know, we're talking about Mel Charlo facing Rosario for the unified titles. You know what I'm saying? We give them a little shine, man. Them Texas boys, you know. And then, you know, Mal Charlo faces Sergey. But nobody's forgetting that Fury and Wilder is on the horizon. Nobody. The UK fans understand that fight is on the horizon. And they understand the danger that's pending with what Deontay Wilder has seen, what's been talked about with Tyson Fury, and all the scandal behind it. This man is going to come back with a vengeance. You're trying to take this man away from his freaking full-time job to feed his family. And potentially, it's all from cheating. It is skill too. Okay, I got to give Tyson Fury, you know, he has the skills to pay the bills, so to speak. But when it comes down to it, y'all was saying Deontay Wilder, you know, his fragmented skill set was subpar. He was underdeveloped. So therefore, why did Tyson Fury have to go change trainers and all this other stuff, you know, and get rid of Ben David, bring in Sugar Hill and all this other shit? Train at Crunk Gym. He want to talk about it was just stale. But no, he didn't want to accept immediate rematch. And he changed up everything just to come back in there and fight a boxer who a lot of y'all was saying didn't have boxing skills in general. So now that we've seen everything play out, the tower has rested. The decision has been made. He was able to go in there and use all the damn dirty tactics possible. What do you think the trilogy is going to be like? I'm telling you, that nigga going to come in there upset. You got to think, Deontay Wilder was in there taking as much punishment as he was and all the headlocks and shit. The man wasn't complaining to the ref like that over and over again. You know, he wasn't sitting up there crying and all that. But you got to think about, even Deontay Wilder, he's thinking about the shit that went on February 22nd. He's thinking about the shit that he's been watching and listening to, and people telling him, just like, you know, Bill Haney and Batman and all the shit that's been going on social media. He's been listening to the stuff that was actually transpiring or developing in the media due to the scandal of his fight. So y'all need to buckle up, because this shit's gonna get shaky. It's just like going on a roller coaster and you get to the top of the hill and you find out, damn, they forgot to check and see if my seatbelt was locked. It's some shit that's gonna be crashing to the motherfucking ground that night. I'm telling you, y'all think Tyson Fury is gonna come in here and have an easier go than he had in the rematch? Man, y'all crazy. Y'all crazy. Y'all crazy, man. They're gonna be dancing in the streets in Alabama. Tyson Fury is gonna have to take another route. He's gonna say, Frankie, can I talk to you for a moment, Frankie? What's next for us, Frankie? I lost the WBC belt. I haven't been able to successfully defend any belts. I was a unified champion before I went on my drug binge. Came back. I was able to pick up the WBC. Now that's gone. Is there any way we can fight Joshua before Deontay, so they can put us right back in the front of the line? What title can I face? You know, who can I face? Is Dillian White available? Can I fight Alexander Povetkin? I need to hurry up and fast track back to the title contention. You know, Tyson Fury is going to be desperate, y'all. And all we're going to be saying to this day, and all the people just like in the live chat that was up here talking, you know, Wilder's done. You're going to be right here on this live chat. You're going to become a Wilder fan, and you're going to be like saying to yourself, damn, I appreciate it. I appreciate for you breaking that shit down and bringing in, you know, bringing a new Wilder fan into the group of thousands, millions. I appreciate that. And I'm going to be like, you're welcome. No problem. I never should have doubted that he was going to go in there and smash and obliterate Tyson Fury, you know, for trying to damn ruin this man's career. But I digress, people. I think I've been on here long enough. I don't want to rile up the UK fans and, you know, for what the nightmare that's pending with them. Because Bomb Squad they're going to take flight. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. We're going to get that WBC title back. And then, you know, talks going to be in. I'm going to see if talks are going to go smoothly where, you know, you're going to have agreement with Tyson Fury facing Anthony Joshua as smooth as Tyson Fury. As Deontay Wilder facing Anthony Joshua, then Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua doing handshakes and shit in public. Let's see if it goes that smoothly. That's all I'm saying. Let's see if it goes that smoothly, people. That's what I want to see. I want to see if people are going to be jumping on here, you know, trying to hype that fight up. Or they're going to be up here saying, man, I hope Tyson Fury get a fourth. They should do a fourth fight. No, we got Anthony Joshua out there. That's what we got. No, I think they should fight a fourth and fifth time. They're going to be trying everything possible to save Anthony Joshua's jaw from going into the Deontay Wilder jaw of fame. It's only a matter of time before Anthony Joshua goes into the Deontay Wilder jaw of fame. There's a mantle waiting for Anthony Joshua's jaw. Right now, it's still mobily attached to Anthony Joshua, who keeps on freaking, you know, running away with the Duck Masters Coalition, man. You know it's true. Anybody who would sit up here and call Tyson Fury and say, guess what? I help you train for the fight with Deontay Wilder. I help you train. And you think I'm not going to go in on Anthony Joshua's neck? I'm telling you, it's only a matter of time before he joins the Jaw of Fame in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Watch. Until then, people, appreciate you stopping through. It's been an absolute pleasure. We shall do this again. World Combat Sports, man. You know what it is. Sub, tune in, subscribe to the channel. And no, I do not worry about anybody who isn't supporting or hating on the channel. You know what it is. Salute.